Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Gameweek 11 review from Scarfy Spurs Talks. I have a wonderful panel as always, and we've got a nice divide across the country. So let's go for a returning guest with me. I know we didn't see always eye to eye last time, but Dan, how you doing, mate?
Yeah, got the boxing gloves on again, ready for you. Doing well, doing okay, as good as can be, as good as can be.
Lovely stuff. And let's jump down. We'll go down Tottenham High Road. We'll go for somewhere else in North London. They are only passing travellers there, but they have been there a lot longer than I'd like them to be. Lee, how you doing, mate?
I'm really good. Lovely to be here again. Good to see you all. Lee Meadows from Gooner Gathering. It's good to be here.
Lovely stuff, mate. And Henry, I would have been much happier to see you a couple of weeks before you beat us down at Selhurst, mate. But we'll forgive you on that one. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, not bad. Nice to see you all, and yeah, excited for the show.
Lovely stuff. Right, so obviously we are in a international break. We do have to review how our last weekend did go. It probably went all right for some of us. Some of us, including myself, were very much thinking, how the hell did I sit and give up 2 hours of my life that I won't get back as well? But let's jump straight into it. So obviously, Saturday, we didn't have any 12:30 kickoff because no one could sort out the TV rights. As always, BT couldn't get it, Sky couldn't get it. So we got stuck with 3 o'clock games, which none of us could watch. But we'll go to West London. We'll go to Brentford, Bournemouth. So I'm going to come to Henry at the moment. Obviously, quite a high intact, well, quite an intense game to say the least. 3-2 final score to Brentford. What did you think on this one, mate?
Yeah, so I was playing actually football at the first half of all the 3 o'clock, so I only managed to kind of catch and keep my eyes on the second halves. But I've had a chance to watch all the highlights, and I think this was a game going into it that was quite exciting for me because you've got two teams that have been kind of. I mean, you look at the table and they're 11th and 12th at the minute, but I think if you just let memory serve, you might. I don't think you'd be criticised for thinking that Bournemouth, especially, might have been higher. I think they're two teams that have got very talented squads, good squad depth, and are on good. They've had good starts to the season, so it was an exciting game. I think I was expecting high scoring, lots of goals, and that's what we ended up with 5 goals, and then Brentford edging it. Johan Visser, who's having an incredible season, just doing what he seems to do at the minute.
No, exactly, mate. I mean, like we was thinking, Bournemouth have had some big scalps. They've had City, they've had Arsenal, they've had some cracking games. And I mean, you would have thought they might have struggled with losing Dom Solanke in the summer, obviously being their top scorer last year. I mean, Evan Nilsson's come in, he's getting some good numbers as well. So I think that everyone probably had them on to take Brentford probably to the cleaners, to be honest, because Brentford are a good team, but they are very unpredictable. They can take a 2-goal lead and lose 3-2 as they are. So, Lee, if I come over to you, mate, obviously Brentford have a nice habit of scoring early, don't they? In this game, they actually didn't, to be honest, but they definitely got it. So Bournemouth did take the lead through Evan Nilsson. What you thought of him this year, mate?
Evan Nilsson is a real problem for a lot of sides. He's the chap who got or kind of helped get our defender Saliba sent off. And quite honestly, I've just seen the chap's goal on my other device, so I thought I'd just make sure I've got 2 devices just in case I need to check on something. I think this guy's really sharp as a finisher. Evan Nilsson is latched upon the mistake from the defender, and he's finished very calmly for the first goal in this match. And this guy seems to be a bit of a handful and a more than capable replacement for the Spurs boy Solanke, isn't he?
Well, that's the thing. It was definitely an interesting one where they did let Solanke go, and to get Evan Nilsson for the fee that they did, it was a very good one. But so, Dan, obviously from an outside of London point of view, mate, what did you think of this one? Because like the guys have alluded to, we've got two strikers in very good form in Visa and Evan Nilsson. I mean, would Everton take any of them? You think you guys would have any chance?
They talk about strikers at the minute. I mean, we've got to see. Well, we've got Brozier coming in now. We've got Brozier just coming back after the international break. So let's see if we've got a striker in Brozier. Fingers crossed. But yeah, they've got good players. The Bournemouth when Bournemouth wasn't doing that well, and they come back again. They had that comeback against us, which never should have happened, where we was beating them in the 82nd minute, and they scored 3 goals in how long to beat us. After that, they've been good. After that, Bournemouth have been decent, and they wasn't that good before we played them. We should have beat them easy. And I didn't rate them when we played them. We went 2-0 up easy, and we should have got the business done, and we didn't. And since then, they played well against Man City. They've had some good games, haven't they, Bournemouth? Brentford are always a team. Brentford can play football. You look at Brentford, the manager. He knows, he gets them passing the ball. And Brentford are a team. When I watch Brentford, you look at them on paper and you think, oh, they're not that good. But their style of football, they always attack every game. The manager, he always gets them attacked. I really do rate him as a manager. And you think that when they haven't got Tony, it'll be a massive loss, but they still play well. They've still got that Visser who's really fast. He's lightning, he is. I like him. They've got some good players. So 2 teams for me that was always going to be equal. And it doesn't surprise me that it went the way it went with goals and obviously the one team nicking it. I didn't think it'd be a draw. I thought someone would win. But yeah, big score on that one. Interesting game.
Yeah. I mean, let's put it this way. From all of us being...
Sorry.
Go on, Lee. Go for it, mate.
Sorry, mate. Just it's similar sort of goals as well. As we just mentioned Evan Nilsson and Weiser's goal, which I've literally just seen in front of me as well. Very similar sort of style of goal as well, where you get that through pass in, and again the striker very, very calm in putting the ball away. And like I said, both sides extremely evenly matched, I think. And in fairness, I have to say this as I'm on the Spurs podcast, right? It's only fair to say that they did actually absolutely batter us the other week, and they completely deserved their result. So throw any stick my way, Spurs fans. It's all good.
No, I appreciate that, mate. But like we all say tonight, we're all neutrals until it comes to our games and all that. But I mean, from a neutral point of view, you like to see loads of goals. I mean, I think this game kind of shows that they couldn't defend to save a barn door, to be honest. But they definitely had a good attacking influx going forward. So let's jump to Henry. I'm going to have to do it for you, mate. I'm going to have to put it down to Fulham Crystal Palace on this one. And obviously we have got Barney in the chat as well. So we will get Barney's views in the chat. But from your point of view, it was a 2-0 loss on the day at Selhurst. Was you at the game or was you keeping your distance?
Yeah, so I wasn't at the game because I was playing. My game went well, won that, so that was
good lad.
A good start to the weekend. Cheers, Lee. And then I got to watch the second half, and to be honest, it wasn't much. It was just really. It was kind of expected. I don't think many Palace fans were expecting a very good performance. We got a ridiculous amount of injuries. Obviously, Will Hughes as well was serving a ban after accumulating 5 yellow cards in the first 10 games, which is one of the most on-brand things, if you like, for Will Hughes. We then got, obviously, another suspension when Kamada put in just what I would describe as it's one of those red cards where he just, you could tell he's trying too hard. He's just tried to get to the ball, overstretched. It's a blatant red card, no complaints. And I think, on another day, this ends 4-0 because I think the offside goal was very tight and the handball is a little bit harsh in my opinion because he's got the ball under control anyway. We've started. I think you do need to kind of not to kind of make excuses, but you look at the starting 11 and you've got Mark Gay playing at centre mid with a 21-year-old academy player Justin Devaney. You've got Eze out, Wharton out. He's just had surgery. Doucouré out. We've got a lot of important players missing. And then you've got the likes of Nathaniel Klein coming back in, who hasn't played at all this season. And I think, that when I'm looking at Palace at the minute, this international break, as much as I've not enjoyed so many international breaks, this one couldn't really have come soon enough.
No, I get where you're coming from, mate. I mean, how many wins is it for you guys this season so far? Is it only one, or is there two now on there?
I believe it's just the one. I should really know this, shouldn't I? But I'm pretty sure that we're. Yeah, I think it's might be one win, four draws. So
Right.
it's really not good. We're struggling big time, and it just hasn't really clicked. And I think after the Spurs game, I spoke on here and I said that this is a chance to push on, and and then we beat Villa in the cup, and it was like, okay, yeah, we might be getting back to where we were at the end of last season, but yeah, we've been hit with a few injuries, and it never felt like we were going to get a result on Saturday. I don't think, my dad and my brothers went to the game, and they said that the atmosphere in the ground was very a bit down. And then obviously, you have a former player in Anderson coming back, and after I think there's been a lot of mutual discussion about Anderson and why we let him go. I just want to make it clear the reason he left the club was because he wanted to bump a last contract in his career. We bought in Lacroix, who's been superb, probably our player of the season so far, one player of the month for us. But yeah, it's just, I think at the minute for Palace, I think it's just a case of the rub of the green is really just not going our way.
No, I completely appreciate that, mate. So obviously Barney was saying that it's definitely a game of incidents, disallowed goals, red card. Anderson obviously on the line clearances, definitely a Fulham game where they dominated and controlled it from start to finish. Like everyone said, it could have been 4-0 as well. So, Dan, if I come over to you, mate, did you catch any of this game? And do you think that Glasner is definitely under pressure now? Because obviously this result does still leave Palace in the relegation area as well.
Yeah, when obviously on our channel we have opposition fans on before we play them, and when I had a Crystal Palace fan on, when we played Crystal Palace, it was both of us hadn't won, and we managed to come back and beat them, even though they had the lead. And I said to him, like, are you worried about being in a relegation battle if one of us don't win? Crystal Palace fans that I had on my channel didn't seem worried to be in a relegation battle, but if you don't start winning, then they probably should have beat us. But luckily we stepped it up and come back. They shouldn't have let us come back. Then they go and beat you, Spurs. And you think that, like you say, you think they're onto something. Then you think your season starts. Once you get that one win under the belt, it's about building. Do you know what I mean? Otherwise, it's all for nothing. And you think, right, are they going to crack on from that and build something? But you lose straight after that. You feel like it was lucky, and you're back. All the bad flashes of you being bad before that come back. So I was looking at Palace here to show that they was going to kick on and put a fight into not being any trouble this season, but they didn't. Fulham, one thing I will say about Fulham, though, is they are decent, It's one of the better teams that have played us. They can pass the ball. They've got a lot of good players, really good signings. They're not weak. And Fulham are good. They're finding the way, and they will get better and better. And I thought I was surprised how good they was, to be fair. No disrespect to them, but I was surprised how good Fulham was when they played us. So it doesn't surprise me on this result.
I do think as well, when you look at the Palace perspective, there is a sense that we're in a point at the moment where it does seem to be that when we're playing teams, they're kind of either at the peak of their powers or they're desperately in need of a win. So obviously going away to Goodison, you lot really needed that win. And again, it's a game where I never expected us. I mean, our record against Everton is just atrocious in the Premier League. It's really not good. We don't do well at Goodison. But you look at the loss to Everton, we then play Liverpool at home, and we probably could have got something out of that game. Unfortunate. Forest away, when Forest have been playing as well as they have, and we gave them a good game, only lost 1-0. We then beat Spurs and Villa, and then it's going away to Wolves, which again they desperately need a win. So I feel like we have had an element of that.
Spurs just feel sorry for all the bottom clubs. That's why we give away 3 points to all of you guys. We just think, get you on the leaderboard, get you going up a little bit. We've done it for you guys. We've done it for Ipswich as well. Might as well do it for another team. We didn't do it for Everton because everyone don't like Dan, but it's just that thing.
It's very charitable, to be fair.
If we could play you maybe 2 extra times a season,
that's the reason they didn't. That's the reason they didn't do it for Everton, because we're not one of these bottom clubs, and you can't get it into your head. You know what I mean?
You guys, you was bottom. You was bottom when you played.
It happened against Crystal Palace. You said one of these bottom clubs. It happened against Ipswich, you just said one of these bottom clubs. It didn't happen against us. You actually beat us because you played the top 4 club and you don't realise it.
You guys are prime Barcelona, are you?
Let's go, Ric Flair. Woo! Ric Flair.
Oh, thank you for that. I appreciate that reference.
Oh,
But yeah, I think just to kind of round off the Palace perspective, I don't think Glasner's under any sort of pressure. I can see why people from the outside might be thinking that, but we had a really poor window. We really didn't spend the money that we got for Elise very well, and I think at the end of the day, if we're all being realistic with ourselves, that's a world-class player that's left, and you've replaced him with Daichi Kamada, Ismail Assar, and Eddie Nketiah, none of whom have registered a single goal or assist in the Premier League this season. That's the problem.
On, Eddie, lad.
I think
that's my boy.
I like Eddie, but yeah, he's struggling a bit. But from what I've heard, January transfer window, we're going to try and invest a bit more in the forward line. And I think the reason, Dan, that you say you had a Palace fan on and they say they're not that worried about relegation is because if you look at Palace, we've had 11 years now of we'll finish 12th. We'll finish 11th or 12th every season. It doesn't matter. We've had relegation scraps, even last season.
Yeah, you've got to be careful with that.
Toiling with it.
You've got to be careful.
I do understand that. So
Leicester did the same. Leicester never accepted there was in a relegation battle. They did all through the season. Leicester never thought they was going to get relegated. And I don't think they even put up the fight to stay up because they never thought there was in a battle too. But they never thought there was in a relegation battle. Us Everton fans, we knew we was, and we was fighting to stay up. They went down. And even up until the last 2 games, Leicester thought they were safe. They never. Sometimes it's dangerous to not
completely agree with
fight. To every point you need to, because you start gifting points later on. You think I should have got that point. I should have got that point.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those things where I think once this international break, you never know. On the back of this, we could have Eze back. We could have Hughes is going to be back. Obviously, Kamada's banned, but he's been pretty useless, so that's not really an issue for any of us. But when Doucouré's back, Wharton, Eze.
I was just going to say that I think you say that. I think Nketiah is a really good signing. I rated him before he went to you. Yeah, I think he was doing well, and I think Nketiah is a good signing. You've got Eze. You've got some good players. So you're saying I haven't got the players. Warrington as well. Is it your manager? Is it your tactics? Something's wrong there because you're striking the big striker that you've got. Sometimes is on the bench.
I think the problem is that as Callum just alluded to, the style. Nketiah has been playing wide left. He's not been playing centrally. I think his best position is where we saw him in the cup, where he scored against QPR when he was playing centrally, because he's a bit of a foxy poacher. He's not really a dribbler. But I do think, and it's not an excuse, but I do think you look at the injury crisis, if you like, that Palace are withstanding at the moment, and it's pretty dire compared to a lot of teams in the league. And what I'm saying is that after this 2-week international break, those players are going to be coming back in. Wharton's going to be recovering from his surgery. And then, you've got those top players that everybody kind of, when you think Palace, you think of the Whartons and the Ezes and the Gays, and 2 of those 3 aren't playing at the minute. And I think once you've got that kind of core quality back in the starting lineup, I think at that point, then if we continue into losing games, then I'll completely say, okay, yeah, I'm worried. Like we need to kind of dig in here. But until we've got everyone back, I'm going to kind of hold my horses on saying, yeah, we're definitely in the relegation fight.
No, that's definitely fair. And Lee, I'll come over to you because I know you've been very quiet for a little bit, mate. Obviously, some polar opposites in this game, and obviously it did have 2 ex-Arsenal youth graduates at the heart of it. Obviously Smith Rowe for Fulham and Nketiah for Crystal Palace. Definitely polar opposites of how they're performing at the moment. I know different positions, but they both came sort of through the same youth group that you guys had. How do you think both of them are doing at the moment since leaving Arsenal?
I'll bring up Iwobi as well, because I think he was always a very talented lad and he's doing very well for Fulham as well. I will start with Nketiah because I was always I got the mickey taken out of me on my own channel for representing Eddie, and I genuinely really like his work, and he works ever so hard. But I think Henry's he's already said it, because they're not utilising him as a centre forward, as if they're playing him wide. it's not to his strength. It really isn't to his strength. You will. Do you know what the way our season's going over at Arsenal? You know what's going to happen in the Carabao Cup tie, don't you? It's going to be the Holding and the Nketiah show.
I doubt. I can guarantee you, Rob Holding will not be involved. I can promise you that. And
Well,
Nketiah,
then you know your season is definitely over if Rob Holding's involved.
Look, I've got to give the Spurs fan a laugh, haven't I? You know what I mean? You also asked me about the other two lads at Fulham, particularly Emil Smith Rowe. It'll be really wrong of me not to bring up my broadcast partner. If you don't know Poch Bertie, he is probably the biggest Emil Smith Rowe fan there is in the whole world. And anytime he's doing anything for Fulham, he's saying, "Oh, look who's got the assist, look who's got the goal." He ain't the biggest fan of Arteta, in all fairness. I love the fact that Emil's getting some game time out there. I'm loving the fact he's like, obviously the last sort of year, 18 months, Arsenal, he had a torrid time even getting getting fit, and then he couldn't even get in off the bench for a long time. The guy's got so much talent. He really has. He's got so much natural ability. He's a confidence player as well. Scored a really lovely goal over the weekend. He had another really good one disallowed. Iwobi's looking like he's coming into some lovely form as well. He had some lovely crosses gone in. And let's bring up our old goalkeeper as well, old Leno. Who's captain over at Fulham at the moment. He's doing a magnificent job in goal as well. The only reason I think Arsenal got rid of him because he's a very old school goalkeeper. He's great with his hands. He ain't so good with his feet. But it's working for Fulham at the moment. And happy for him. I'm genuinely happy for him until we see him down the road.
No, really appreciate that. Really appreciate that. And obviously, for Barney's sake, long may it continue for Fulham until they face Spurs. But we'll see. So let's jump to... We'll go to East London. We'll go to a place that has a running track. It's got a shopping centre next to it. And you can't hear the fans because it's that far away from the pitch. So, Dan, how was your weekend for this game, mate, at 3 o'clock against... the Hammers or the Irons, or whatever.
It's all right. It was pretty boring, wasn't it? Pretty boring game. Boring game. Both teams pretty poor. Both teams. Surprised how bad West Ham was, though. Really, really surprised how bad they was. I mean, you look at them on paper, I thought we was going to be in for a game, and they really wasn't that good. And it frustrated me that we didn't go for it as much as I would have liked. There's big questions on Sean Dyche at the minute. I honestly do believe. I mean, some of our results shouldn't have been. And this was a game where if we was on it, we should have beat them. It was amazing because you go on X and you look at all the West Ham fans after and saying, "How did you not beat a team that was that crap?" That's what they're saying about themselves. I was thinking, well, you was the crap team. It's not a good thing that you're saying about yourself. But they was just literally, "How did you not beat us?" We were shocking. And they really was shocking. But we should have been better. We should have been better. Sean Dyche, he's not getting us right. He's not pressing high enough up the pitch for me. It was better. Branthwaite was back in. Pickford was fantastic. Pickford was insane. When I know some people don't like Pickford. It is what it is. But when he's like that and you watch him, he gets your points. He really does. They had a couple of chances at the end. His free Willy save at the end, honestly. Anyone that says he ain't got long arms, mate, that save that he produced at the end was world class. And that's why he's England number one, because I don't know how he has got an error in him, but when Pickford's on it, his shot stopping. The reason that Everton are in the Premier League now is Jordan Pickford. He saved. If you watch the game against Chelsea, Jordan Pickford was phenomenal on his triple save against Chelsea. And Pickford, this game is the difference between them getting 3 points and us coming away with a point. So, but like I say, I'm making it sound like they was good. They just had 2 chances at the end where Pickford saved us, but at the start of the game, for how bad they was, we really could have scored a couple of goals if we had something about us.
I've always thought about Everton though. I've always thought, obviously Everton have historically done very well against Palace, so that might just be down to that. but on paper, you have a brilliant squad. Do you know what I mean? Like you've got Brampwaite and Tarkowski. I know Brampwaite's had some injury issues, and then Mikolenko. I don't mind. Obviously, you've got Pickford in goal, who, as you rightly said, is my only flaw with Jordan Pickford is that he gets really angry when he has to do his job. Other than that, I think he's brilliant. England's number one, 100%. I think he's quality, and I think the weekend showed that. Those saves, even seasons gone by, the last couple of seasons where you've been flirting with relegation, I think you're completely spot on, Dan. I think if you don't have Jordan Pickford, you probably do go down, and you might still be in the Championship. So I think you've got a lot to credit him for that. In terms of, I want to ask you a question about Sean Dyche, and that's obviously, like you said, there's a lot of frustration, and that's kind of due to how you're playing. If you were to be able to replace Sean Dyche right now, who would you get instead?
And be realistic.
No, I wouldn't go for anything. I am realistic. I know I'm positive about my team, but I am realistic. I'd love the Brentford manager, as I rightly said. He's good. Mm-hmm. I like what he does. I would, but one thing I will say is coming. If we're keeping everyone updated with the news, is we know the freaking are very close to taking over. It's about to happen. They've just passed some checks, just the last ones to pass. And the Roma, if you look at Roma, they've changed the manager, and they've just changed the manager again, and they've gone and got Renier. They're looking like they're going to get Renier. Yeah. So, yeah, it looks like they're going to bring out an old retired manager. So, I don't know. I am just waiting to see, because I like that these new owners are going to. They've got big money, so they'll pay everything for us. So I like that everything's paid. The new stadium's going to get paid. So you're really happy on that note. But we don't want another Mashiri. We don't want someone to come in and say, pick the wrong manager, sack him, pick the wrong manager, sack him. Because what you've got to realise is these managers get their players and they play their style. And then you sack him. And then you get another manager with a new style and he likes different players. And then you end up, this is what's happened with Everton. You end up with a bunch of all different misfits of players that are on 5-year contracts. And you can't they've all got long contracts, even if you want to get rid of them. And it takes you years. And I would say this season is the first season where we are perfect to rebuild. So I hope these owners are right, because this season we've got a really thin squad, which is scary and isn't good. That's one thing that we're moaning about at the minute. The squad's too thin. But it's nice that we haven't got Delph on the books now. It's nice that we haven't got Gabamin, who never ever played but was on the books. It's nice that we've got rid of frigging Mope. We've got rid of a lot of the players that we wanted to get rid of. So now, if you've got the owners come in now and they do the right things, we are the perfect opportunity. New stadium, put the money into the right things. It's a perfect time for us to rebuild. But if the wrong person comes in, we can go back down the same bad lane that we went down with Moshiri. So big times for Everton. Manager, like I say, Brentford. I wouldn't mind Potter.
What a bastard. What a bastard.
I wouldn't mind Potter. But the thing is with Potter is I don't know if, because of what we've been through, which is so much, you're always scarred by stuff. I don't know if we'd have the patience for Potter to go from long ball from Dyche, turn us into a passing football team. It's what we want. But as fans, are we that used to being scared of our team passing because we concede when we try to pass?
That would be magic more like Harry Potter than Graham Potter.
Has it got that? Well, the thing is, you've got Iliman and Jai, who is he's like a little Messi. I'm telling you, Iliman and Jai. Dyche is playing him a left wing. I don't know why, because he's a number 10. So we've got players now where it's changing us, and you're thinking Iliman and Jai. He wants the ball into his feet, and you don't want to put long ball to Iliman and Jai. Dyche is doing long balls, and Iliman and Jai suits a passing team. So I'm thinking now it's time for a new manager and to start getting us a bit of possession and fancy football, because we have got players that can do it now. Because Jai is class. Lindstrom's not bad either. We've got some good players.
So if we go along with the line of like what Freaking Group have done with Roma, with getting a retired manager, the three options you have got, who would most likely go to Everton.
Mourinho was mentioned.
No, he's not retired, so you're all right on that one. You've got
but he's mentioned.
You've got Holloway, unless he's got a job, and you've got Roy Hodgson. So
Didn't Holloway just started?
Did you not see it?
I think, didn't he?
Well, you never know. They could probably
But
get Holloway out
the
of the
thing
job.
is, though, I honestly think I think your manager's on his way out as well, and I think that's been your problem as well. Manager. Spurs haven't.
Yeah.
They haven't done an Aston Villa and got the manager they want yet, have they? Since you've been in that new stadium,
That's how they are, mate.
You've got the new stadium, but not the right manager.
Harry
I
has
do-
weighed in on this one for you, Dan, as well, in regards to Mourinho. So we will see. I don't think Mourinho's ever managed in the Champions League.
I would have won Mourinho anyway. I think Mourinho isn't fit for us anyway. But Mourinho did say on one interview that he wanted to come at a team. I don't want Mourinho anyway. I generally I looked at the table earlier on, and this is fact. I looked at it, and we should be a lot higher. It was 2-0 up. 2-0 up against, and I'll say it 100 times, 2-0 up against Bournemouth, 82nd minute. If Dyche can't get us to see that out, he might as well get sacked right there and then on that Bournemouth game. If you can't win a game 2-0 up, 84th minute against Bournemouth, your tactics are shite.
Is that on Dyche?
2-0 up. Well, come on. Dyche said he could smell things going wrong, but he didn't make no substitutions. So how's that not on him? He said after the game, I could smell it going wrong.
Yeah, but he can smell it all he likes.
You're saying you can't just
there's
blame.
less than 10 minutes left. The players, I'm not being funny. If I was playing and I was 2-0 up and we had less than 10 minutes left, I wouldn't be having to dig at my manager if we then lost, by 3-2. I'd be looking at my players and my teammates and thinking.
But what about if you're watching the game? What about if you're watching the game, right? And you can see Dyche likes leaving players on. He believes that team that he puts on can do the job and see the game out. But what about if you're watching that game and you can see players ain't tracking back because they're shattered? And you can see the wingers ain't getting back. And then all of a sudden, Bournemouth score because that winger's not got back. He's got stuck ages because Dyche is leaving these players on because he believes they can see the job out. That's what Dyche has done. He's left them on. So all of a sudden, you're seeing your winger not get back. They score the first goal, which makes it 2-1, gives them a confidence. How's that not on the manager?
I think, you can put some blame on it, but at the same time, these are professional athletes and Premier League footballers. They should be able to do their jobs and see a game out. They should be able to play 95
Players still get shattered, don't they? When substitutes, when fresh legs come on, which Bournemouth brought on. Bournemouth brought 3 subs on, they brought fresh legs on. Our players are shattered. Whether you're professional athletes or not, they fatigue. Every player fatigues. Look how many subs everybody makes. Look how many subs Arsenal make. Players fatigue. Now, if you've got a player that's shattered against a player that's just come on fully fit, as a manager, you've got to do something about that. For me,
yeah, of course. But then your centre halves, I think. But then you look at the goals, and your centre halves. I thought, you probably weren't going to take one of those off. You're talking about wingers there, but your centre halves let Lewis Cook win a header, and that's for me. That's my point. Is that these are player mistakes that have cost you that game. And yeah, it's you could argue that the cross doesn't come in if but you have the players on the pitch there to deal with that. And I don't think I think if you let the Bournemouth winger cross it in, 9 times out of 10 against Lewis Cook, your centre backs clear it away, and they didn't. So they didn't do their job there. So I think that there's some blame to be put on Dyche, but with 2-0 up, 2-goal lead, whatever the scoreline you like, with between 5 and 10 minutes left, there is no excuse for the players to be dropping their heads, losing the ball. You concede the first goal, and what would have happened is the players would have dropped their heads. They would have thought, "Oh bloody hell, here we go! Like we really can't lose this from here." And then they have because they're worried about it and they're getting their heads down. I just, for me personally, I think that's a player issue. Now I've seen it with Palace where there's not enough fight. There's not enough. We're a goal up. We're a goal up against Everton.
Yeah, but what you're saying, I get what you're saying, and you're right. The players have to be like you say, the players are still on the pitch and they can stop something happening. Completely agree. So I do believe the players are partly to blame. But also, me personally, if I was the manager, I'm in charge of the players. I'm in charge of the players. That's what a manager is. A manager is in charge of the players. So he's got to see these things. That's where a manager earns his bread and butter. He's got to see these things. People don't realise managers are important as the players. They are as important as good managers. We always say it on a game. Manager brings a sub on, the sub scores, and we say, wow, that was a good. Sometimes managers see things you don't even know. And this is the reason we say Aston Villa is so good, because the manager is so clever, brings on the right players. So, honestly, managers do win. I get what you're saying, though. Still, it's no excuse. I mean, even if the wingers are shattered and the cross comes in, your centre-back still has the opportunity to save him. Completely get that. But then you could just go further back and say, if we did have fit players on to stop them running down, we could be attacking and seeing the game.
No, I get you, and I think I am playing devil's advocate to a point. I just think that I am seeing it quite a lot where teams are. I think that for me, there's only so much a manager can do. There's only so much a manager can do. And that's what I've seen with Palace is that I don't think Glasner's setup is wrong. I don't think that his drive and motivation is wrong. I don't think his decision making is wrong. Like Dyche sometimes takes a bit of time to make subs and prefers to bring on Jeffrey Schlupp instead of exciting wingers, which is frustrating. But what I've seen from Palace this season and how we've dropped a lot of points is players just not looking like they're asked, and that cannot be down to the man. So I think I might be kind of hitting your club with my own bat in a sense, in that I've seen my players let Glasner down in a sense in games this season, and I think that there's only, like I said, there's only so much a manager can do from the sideline.
I think you guys have both made valid points, and I think there's definitely a merit to it because I feel like every team, apart from Liverpool, every team this season has been let down, or the manager has been let down by their players and all that. There is scenarios for all of us where either the players have switched off, they've screwed up, made their own mistakes. And I mean, I'm coming at it from Spurs' point of view. Lee, you know how it's been that you guys have been let down and disappointed. Dan, you look at it from an Everton point of view where theoretically Dyche hasn't made the right stuff, but there is definitely players that aren't performing at the top level either for you guys as well. And the same with you, Henry, as well. With Glasner, he was great last year when he came in after Hodgson. He got you guys right up there, and now it's players not performing and different people like that as well. You don't just become a bad manager overnight. You don't become a Premier League manager overnight either. You have to earn that right. And all of us have got managers who are proven, not winners, but they're proven competitive managers as well. So it's definitely a valid point. And it's just the fact that, yes, Everton did draw against West Ham, against a team that is in identity crisis, who don't know whether they're defending, attacking, or just being shit because they're playing in an Olympic stadium, not a football stadium. But let's move on.
Two things I wanted to say just really quick.
Oh, come in quickly, Lee. Go on, mate.
And it's really funny because we just had a 0-0 draw that we're trying to talk about, and this is.
I know. We went at it there, didn't we? It was
good.
To be fair, it was a good debate. It was a good debate. It was way longer.
I like debates. I want debates. It makes people want to watch, and it makes us all have a laugh. So it's all good.
Exactly. There's two things I really want to bring up. Keeping up to date with the news, of course, Braithwaite has withdrawn from the England squad after having a bit of an injury issue, which is a bit of a shame for him because that might have been an opportunity. The point was made about Pickford being a bit of an angry goalkeeper, and that when that point was made, I automatically laughed because I think to be a goalkeeper you have to be a little bit mad anyway, and I compare Pickford to Jens Lehmann a little bit. Very, very similar breed of goalkeepers. Pickford has been incredible over the season. I want to give him all the praise in the world because, yes, he has his critics, but when he needs to, he really comes out of his shell and he's fantastic at what he does. So, I just wanted to make sure I just add my 2 pence worth in there and say, he's a great goalkeeper and fully deserves his number one shirt.
No, wonderful, mate. Thank you for that.
So it gets a lot of sticks, so nice to hear that.
Well, he's got to have some fans somewhere. You never know.
Well, there's a game coming up where I'm not going to say what I was going to say on Jordan Pickford, but I'll say it when the game comes up.
Oh, I know I'm going to get slaughtered one way or another. But
there's a game where I could see Jordan Pickford being very effective in gaining the team 3 points. But we'll talk about it in a minute.
Right, let's go to Molineux, where Wolves actually got a win and all that, and definitely Southampton's season is not going the way I think they wanted it to. And I mean, the good thing is my best mate's a Saints fan, so every time I talk about them, I can rub a little bit of salt in the wound, so it does make it a lot more interesting. So let's come to Dan on this one, mate. You had a lot to say on the last time, so let's see how you had to say on this game as well, mate.
I ain't got much to say on this. You done well chucking on me. I don't. The two, and no disrespect. I like I say, I do have fans on my channel of opposition, so I have them all on. But Wolves are all right. Southampton all right.
No, I
don't know,
appreciate
two teams
it.
trying it. I haven't got much to say. Because this is a game. I think Southampton are going to struggle this season. They could get relegated, and that's no disrespect to Southampton at all whatsoever. It's just,
I don't think
but they're
that's
saying that
disrespect.
they did beat us, so I can't say. This is why I can't say something on Southampton, because I'm just like, they did beat us, and I did get told by someone on my channel that Southampton are one of the best possession teams in the league. They are really good.
I don't think it's disrespectful to say that Southampton are going to get relegated, though. I really don't. I think that's just realistic, to be honest. I think, any team coming up to the Premier League, I don't think it's disrespectful to say they'll go down.
I can't say much, though. I do think they'll get relegated, but I can't say much because they did knock us out the cup and they did beat us in the league, which...
Yeah, of course.
I'm not going to go into Sean Dyche again, because I've got big grudges on Sean Dyche about that Southampton game. So don't get me started on that, because I tell you something, Sean Dyche treated Southampton like Manchester City, mate. Yeah, I'm not saying much, but Southampton beat us. I can't say much about Southampton. They beat us, but I don't rate them. So
I'm enjoying this. You've just got to wind it
up
and put a penny in, and then Dan say Sean Dyche's name, and then just sit and listen.
It's winding me up, to be fair. Yeah,
I'm enjoying it.
Oh, don't. Yeah,
9 points. 9 points we could have had. We could have been sitting about 6th position now if Sean Dyche wouldn't have lost 3 games that he should have won. Yeah, never mind.
Abrams, exterminate.
Dyche, you idiot. Get off my club. You're doing my Sean Dyche. Get him out of my club now.
Don't. Right, Lee, let me come to you on this one, mate.
Okay.
So, obviously, it was an early goal for Wolves. Sarabia getting the early goal to heap some more shit onto Saints. What did you think of this game, mate?
Well, it's really good I've seen the goal in the last minute, so that helps. So, yeah, honestly, I hadn't seen this one at all until just now. What I would say, two really, Southampton have had a real struggle, and like you said, with a promoted side, it isn't being disrespectful. What you guys are saying is it's difficult when you get up from Championship up to Premier League, and perhaps they were a little bit unlucky. I'd just seen the first Wolves goal where the striker was put through. Again, it's another similar goal to the chap at Bournemouth, isn't it? Edison, who had that. I think got his name right. It doesn't matter. Where they got the through pass and you put it through. They had a goal disallowed themselves, Southampton, because of a foul. But then I've just seen the second goal just now. A bit of a fierce hit, to be fair. And our old goalkeeper, Ramsdale, you could have had about 3 of them there, and he wouldn't have kept him out. Again, Wolves have had a bit of a reputation over the season of having a bit of the worst defence, but they kept a clean sheet in this one, and a much needed first win for them for the season.
I think what's a little bit embarrassing as well is the fact that Southampton's formation was 5-4-1. It was probably one of the most defensive formations you could have in the Premier League all season, and they have played that for quite a lot of the season. It's not even a wing-back style, it's a full-back style, so they are literally most of the time a flat back line, and yet I don't think they've kept one clean sheet all season, unless it was against Everton. But you never.
It was against Everton. You just hit the nail on the head, right? This is the reason. You've just said they played a 5. They played 5, and you just said they played 5 at the back, yeah. So they played 5 at the back. Sean Dyche plays them, and Sean Dyche decides we play 5 at the back, and we completely sit back. And our first thing is to defend against Southampton. So the only game where Southampton got to attack all game and dominate possession was us, because we just
born silly.
Southampton. Come on, Southampton. Go on. Happy birthday, Southampton. Take 3 points.
They do play Spurs in a few weeks as well, so that could be another clean sheet and a win. You never know.
Yeah. Exactly, mate.
Southampton beating Spurs, to be fair.
It's going to be one of them games where it'll probably be like 3-2 to Saints, something like that. They'll get a set piece of Vicario.
Premier League, man.
But then saying that, looking at their next games, they've got Liverpool at home, Brighton away. They've then got Chelsea at home, Villa away, and then Spurs at home. Like, those are 5 very difficult fixtures. Like,
They might as well
Southampton
just.
could,
They might as well just
they-
go to the Championship at Christmas. They might as well just go and
Exactly.
join the Championship halfway through.
and I feel bad. You do feel bad.
Just
saying
bury
that,
them a
but
bit more.
But it's like, and this is what I was getting at when Dan said that he didn't want to be disrespectful. Like, Southampton are going to get relegated. They are. Like, and that, Palace could well join them. You never know. We'll have to wait and see. But the Ipswiches, they could well get relegated. And I think Sunderland come up next year. They
Don't
probably
do
will go
that.
straight back down.
You'll upset him.
Like, this is the problem though for me is like the gap between the Premier League and the Championship is just getting so big that I think we saw more so last season than any other season before, where Sheffield United were just whipping boys for everybody. Like the number of goals they conceded was it's absolutely incredible. Like,
I think we had an aggregate score of about 7-1 against them, something like that.
Is that all? Is that all?
A lot of teams are inconsistent this season. A lot of teams are inconsistent, and it's mad because when you look at the league table where Man United are now, I mean they're shite anyway, but I'm just saying you wouldn't expect them so low. And when you look at where Nottingham Forest, I've looked at Nottingham Forest. They could say they could go for top 4 where they are. It's
unbelievable, isn't it? Fair play to them.
Unpredictable. I can't believe the league table. I check it twice.
It's like you guys have said, though.
Colleague. Sorry, my broadcast colleague wants to have Chris Wood instead of Kai Havertz. It's just madness.
They probably do a better job.
Some players suit.
Yeah, well, there you go. I'll just set you up for the gags, guys. Don't worry.
But it's like all of you have said. There's so many clubs that are. Well, it shows how close that bottom 6 or 7 are. It's a matter of a couple of points and all that. It shows that anyone can beat anyone, apart from Southampton. Southampton can't beat anyone.
I think Southampton are pretty nailed on, and then it's between probably Wolves, Palace, Ipswich, Everton, and Leicester. That would be my call now. I think 2 of those, kind of 4 or 5, will join Southampton going down. But again, like we say every week, it's too early to tell. Everton could go on a run of 4-game wins. I don't know when the last time it could happen.
Also, you can't say before January either, can you? That's the thing. I mean, January window, I don't think you can say before a January window who's going down, because you don't know what teams are going to do. I know it's never a busy window, but I think it will be this season.
Yeah, I completely agree. Unless Southampton are still on 4 points, and at that point, I think that would be the early call for me.
There's definitely going to be a lot of movement around the top 10 clubs, I think, when it comes to spending money, because a lot of them obviously had the PSR thresholds lifted now that they've gotten over the hiatus of the summer with it as well. And I think if they're still in cup competitions, they'll definitely be pushing for stuff. But talking of top clubs, obviously we'll go down to the south coast.
Back to Everton. I thought you'd go back to Everton then.
Oh no!
Talking about top clubs, you said.
Yeah, no. Your ears were burning, and then the delusion in your head kicked in. So I mean, it must have been it must have been hitting you on that.
We ain't spoke about Tottenham yet, so we ain't spoke about Tottenham yet, so I'm just waiting.
No, I'm thinking that Harry did that show on Monday, so maybe we don't need to cover
exactly.
it.
So
no, you're not getting away with that. Absolutely,
you're coming at me early, yet, mate.
Oh, I have the end stream button. I have the end stream button. Remember, boys, so I can do it if I want to. But we'll see.
Do you know what I mean? You can say what you want to me, because the moment you put your score on the screen, I don't need to do anything, mate.
Oh, I'm getting killed.
We'll just do the Nelson thing, shall we? We'll go. Ha ha!
We drew, mate. Oh, we drew. You wait until you put your score up.
Oh, mate, I know. I'm dreading it. But no, this was definitely a game that had a lot of intrigue in it, and it actually did have implications for, realistically, a team that are, well, Brighton with a new manager and Man City, who will potentially be without a manager at the end of the season, and they are on one of the longest losing runs, I think, of Pep Guardiola's career. So, Lee, I'm going to come to you on this one, mate.
Fantastic.
This was definitely an interesting game, weren't it?
I don't know, was it? I did not see it.
Oh,
well, sorry. I've got a busy life, right? What I will say is that you're right in what you're saying about Pep's results at the moment. He seems to be getting a bit of a free pass in losing game week. It's really unusual, to be fair. It's very un-Pep like, but people. I've got people on the Arsenal channel coming out with the pitchforks and everything for Arteta, even after a draw at Chelsea. In fairness, of course, Pep's got his stripes and he's got his trophies and everything like that.
And they are still 4 points above Arsenal.
Absolutely they are. I mean, that will change anytime soon. It'll be 7 soon. No. There you go. I know my role. Don't you worry. But it's the life of O'Reilly, isn't it? That's how it is all going at the moment. See what I did there?
That was good.
Thank you very much. I'm here all week. But I can't really add too much to this right now. Otherwise, I'll be saying live exactly what I'm seeing on the screen. I can't. Sorry.
I did actually watch this game. A lot of my friends are Brighton fans, unfortunately, because I live in Brighton, and yeah, it's just. I think it's one of those things for me where it doesn't matter how many times Brighton change managers, what players they sell. They sell Caicedo, Baleba spawns in. They get rid of De Zerbi, and now they've got this. This new guy, and he seems to be better than him. I think Brighton are just, they're just a good team, really, and it's really frustrating, especially as a Palace fan.
Fair play.
I think for Man City, like. I did say actually when I was on after Palace beat Spurs, I remember talking to Harry and the other lads about my interest in Man City after they'd lost that first game of these last 4, because these aren't players that lose games. And I remember saying that at the time when they lost the first game and saying these aren't players that are used to losing. They're not used to losing multiple games in a row, let alone 4. So I do think it's going to be interesting in terms of the mentality. You saw. There's a bit of handbags in the game between Haaland and Paul van Heck. I think, there just seems they're obviously very uncomfortable when they lose games, and I do find that really interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see how that carries on. And meanwhile, you've got Liverpool chugging away in the background with no issues whatsoever. So I think this could be a season where you've got Arsenal dropping silly points, you've got City losing games where they don't normally lose, and then Liverpool are quietly just like, oh, there's no one else bothering us.
No, I get where you're coming from.
It's actually fuming me. Go on. It's fuming me. Like, I mean, we'll talk about Arsenal when we talk about Arsenal, but Chelsea, Arsenal, and Manchester City, obviously the main one. I don't know what they're doing. I don't know what they're playing at. They're really winding me up, actually. And I don't really take much notice because Man City normally just get the. I do not want them to win the league. I tell you something. We'll talk about the referee later on as well. I do not want to hear them winning the league, and Manchester City needs to step up. But one thing I will say, I'll have a little say on this, is Brighton, fantastic. Like Brighton, Brighton was at a point for me personally where I thought they get good players and they sell them, and eventually it's going to bite them in the arse. Keep selling all the good players because they'll end up bringing in players that ain't as good. And they got good players, sold them. Got good players, sold them. Got good players, sold them. And then it feels like this season that Brighton have said, right, instead of just selling players, we're going to actually go and buy a lot of good players. And I think this season, Brighton have turned themselves into a big boy team. You look at the players they've got, the Turkish wing back as well. They've spent, for the first time, all that good business that Brighton, that we all said, the good model that they've got within the club, all the good business that they've done, it felt like they've continuously put it in a pot over season after season after season and said, right, this is a season where we're going to spend
100%,
and we're going to be a big boy club. Yeah, and they are good now.
You saw a lot of fans, especially Chelsea fans, which I found mind-blowing, saying, "What PSR? How are Brighton able to spend this much money?" And Chelsea fans saying that.
No, they're clever.
How about all? Yes, because all the Chelsea fans, the reason why they're in PSR problems and Brighton ain't is because they've paid all their money to Brighton. So that's why they're spending Chelsea money on it. But when you've got players that were actually really good last year for Brighton as well, they've now got a year on themselves, so they're more mature. Yeah. So Van Hecker, Verbertson, João Pedro as well. All of these people that are coming
striker as well, the Irish striker.
Sorry. Oh, Ferguson. Ferguson.
Yeah.
I mean, striker. When you think he's what, 20 or 21, he's 20, he's shit hot at the moment, ain't he? So
what a squad they've got.
I mean,
Well, I think
Danny
you'll
Welbeck
make
as
good
well.
points
Let's
as
bring him up.
Obviously, I don't
Yeah.
enjoy talking about Brighton. I don't enjoy talking about how well Brighton are doing. But I think what you can say to their credit is that I felt like this summer they didn't really sell in the same way, and they kind of like you said, they kind of did that big splurge. You know, even players like Brian Bruder that they brought in from Germany, really exciting young player, and these are players that I've kept an eye on from a distance for a while, and then it's like Matt O'Reilly. It's obviously Brighton ended up picking them up, and now I can't enjoy watching them anymore. But I do think that
who's the Turkey? Is it left back that they brought?
Ferdi Kadioglu.
Yeah, as soon as they got him, I watched him in the and I thought, yes, I don't know how they've got him. He's a player, he is. So, they are good.
They've spent really well.
There's another one as well that they've got on loan at Leicester as well. Bonetti, or is it? Or Bonotti?
Yeah.
He's like one of Leicester's best players this year as well. He's been like,
yeah, and I think, but then you look at that, and I think the reason that Palace fans especially are so envious of clubs like Fulham and Bournemouth and Forest and Brighton, you know, and I do it kind of does my head in a bit on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, that Palace fans kind of, you get really beaten for giving any sort of credit to Brighton and saying, actually, yeah, I'm jealous of them, because why wouldn't you be? They're run so smoothly, and then, you know, they make good decisions. Sending Bonotti on loan to Leicester, what a brilliant decision that is. Send him to a newly promoted team, he becomes a starting player and has a starring role. They sign good young players, they sell at the right time, and they have a brilliant scouting system. If they weren't called Brighton Hove Albion and they didn't have that same club badge and they weren't with the same fans, any Palace fan would look at Brighton and think, yeah, I'm jealous. I want.
They are even Everton fans do it as well. They are the perfect model on how to run a football club. You've got to be proud of them. I was just going to chuck one thing on though. Do you know when we had this manager argument? And we say managers can be effective on messing clubs up or doing good for clubs. Pep letting Cole Palmer go is not spoken about enough. I said this the other day. Like De Bruyne now is just like always injured. I can't believe Pep let Cole Palmer go. If Cole Palmer played for Manchester City still, they would not be in this situation. And Cole Palmer, by the way, he was still, you could tell he was going to be incredible when he was at Manchester City. You could tell that he was going to be something special. And I can't believe Pep just said, right, you're not going to get much. I can't believe they let Cole Palmer go, because Manchester City at the time had won everything and they could keep whatever player they wanted. Why did they let Cole Palmer go? That baffles me.
It's a strange one, Dan, isn't it? It's a really strange one, because he impressed us in that Community Shield game, and he scored the first goal in the game. And we're like, you know, this was about a week before the season, and we're like, what? They've sold him? That's so weird.
Can't believe it.
And but I do want to go to Brighton, because that's what we're talking about. And they show so much character as well, because they come back from a goal down, and Haaland breaks his drought a bit as well. They showed an incredible amount of guts to come back. There's not many teams that do that against Manchester City. And I'm sure there was something else I was going to jump in on. I've forgotten what I was going to say, but I think I've got the main point out.
Yeah, I think just to add on to your guys' point about Cole Palmer as well, I think that where Haaland was on a goal drought, I think them letting Liam Delap go was, I mean, I know he's playing for Ipswich, but he's still got 5 or 6 Premier League goals now. Piss off. We'll get to that later on. Until then,
big player. It's got to be good. He's got to be good.
Oh, don't. But no, I really like Liam Delap. I think he's a really good player, and I thought he was so good coming through.
You didn't until Saturday, anyway.
Well, yeah, but when you think about it, so many teams, when you think that for the money that Palace spent on Nketiah could have got Delap, what Everton could have had. So many clubs, even Spurs, I would have taken Liam Delap in a heartbeat. I like Solanke, but if you have a player like that who's done so good, you could.
Yeah, we was in. You say that though, but we was actually in. We had a deal on the table for Gyökeres from Coventry.
Oh yeah!
2 years
ago. Yeah, 2 years ago.
You know what he's gone and done. Gyökeres, like literally, we had the deal on the table, but unfortunately, we was playing with FFP. And
but I do think it
must have been on the line.
It's easy to look back now and say, you know, why did they go for Delap? But
Yeah,
he
of
didn't
course.
like he was at Hull on loan for a period of last season. I'm not sure how long, but he didn't have a good season. He scored he scored 8 goals in 31 appearances. That isn't an incredible return. That isn't a return that would have you looking down into the Championship now and thinking, oh yeah, we'll go and nab him up. I think it's easy, obviously, with hindsight to look back. I think it was a bit of a risk. He's never really played in the Premier League properly. It was a punt, and at the moment it's working off. So fair play to them. You say about Gyökeres with Everton. What about Gyökeres with Brighton? Brighton had him in their academy, and then but then you speak to Brighton fans and you see what Brighton fans are saying, and they say, well, he was no good when he was at us. That's why we got rid of him to Coventry. And I think it's just one of those interesting things that comes with transfers. Ivan Nilsson, I really didn't expect much from him. I kind of always seen him as just he's in the Portuguese league. Strikers seem to do quite well there, and he's come in and proved me wrong in that sense. So I think that it's kind of one of the things about football that I really enjoy is the transfers that come in and go out, because sometimes you could sign someone like Nketiah and we could get to the end of this season and he might have less than 5 Premier League goals. You just never know. And then Smith Rowe, who a lot of Palace fans snubbed, is having the season that he is at Fulham.
Exactly.
Exactly. You're right there, because I like to see this, because I like to see the risk on some of these young players. I mean, Crystal Palace, Everton, we can't spend big like some of these top 4 clubs. They can just take a risk on £70 million player and still get away with it and pay £70 million for another and get away with it financially. But because that's the good part sometimes, as when you are not at the top, is that you can land on a gem. We've done it with Branthwaite. And you can land. When I watched Harry Kane Harry Kane, I watched him on the Golf Channel the other day, and he was talking about himself. I watched Harry Kane when he was in Tottenham's academy, and I watched his development through there. And it's nice to see these young players. You don't know at the time that Harry Kane was going to do what he did, but when I watch Harry Kane talk about all the successes, you think, wow, England captain.
But
you know what I mean? Sorry to bring Harry Kane up, but yeah.
No, but that's the thing. He's one of my heroes, mate. So that's all right.
Yeah.
But there's an ex-Palace Academy player called Kwadwo Bar who's just absolutely balling in the Championship for Watford at the moment. But there's a reason Palace let him go, because he wasn't good enough at the time. So I do think it's really interesting. I wouldn't have looked at him and thought, oh, that's a potentially future Premier League player. And now he's still young, playing really well in the Championship for Watford, and could be a signing that potentially an Ipswich look at in January. I think you're spot on though in seeing these young players come through, and I do love that kind of. I did really enjoy the exodus of kind of Arsenal academy talent that happened over the summer, and even like Lee touched on earlier with Iwobi, and seeing how he's gone on and obviously played at Everton as well, and but then Smith Rowe, was always such a talented player, and I don't know, I felt like Arsenal kind of just pushed him to one side in a sense, and it is really good to see him doing very well. I wish he was doing it really well for Palace, and I didn't appreciate him shushing the Palace fans considering he's from Croydon. But it is good to see. I
do like the
stepping away from the bigger clubs.
I like these players that sometimes you get it. I mean, we talked about young gems. That's the fishing for these diamonds. I do like that. But I also like it when a player's been written off. I mean, we turned our nose at Ross Barkley back, and he went and played absolutely fantastic last season. Ross Barkley did.
Yeah.
Smodix was another one that a lot of people would have questioned this season. And Smodix has been really good. I like him. I rate him. He smashed it in the Championship. People said, would he still be good in the Premier League? He's done really well. Iwobi, like you said, I wasn't sure if he'd do well at Fulham. He's done well. Smith Rowe is another one where Arsenal fans probably you'd say turn the back on him. I didn't like Iwobi. Iwobi's smashing it. Arsenal fans, they love Smith Rowe, but you look at him now with Odegaard injured, and he's turning out to be a big mistake that you probably let go. I do like it when players prove they've done wrong that they should have been
proving a point, isn't it?
Dan, I've got another one for you as well. What about Ademola Lookman playing for Atalanta now as well? How well?
He was really young though. Like he needed. You forget what age he was at Everton. Like he was there so young. He needed to grow as a player. And like we touched on earlier on, the thing is your personality. As you get older, you get more confident. You get more chilled out. You're relaxed in games, and you don't know what a player. You don't know what a personality is going to develop into. So a player, like you said, in the academy, you could think he's something. He could turn out crap. Or he could be nothing in the academy system, like this Delap that you're talking about, and then all of a sudden, boom, something clicks. The Premier League's easy, and he smashes it, and he could be like the best striker in the Premier League next season.
And that's the thing. I mean, one of them that always comes to mind for me, Dele Alli, how he was for us when he was much younger,
yes,
and all that. One of the best young prospects. I mean, that kind of set that trend of the £5 million youngster.
As an Everton fan, because we're still letting him train with us, and as an Everton fan, sometimes when we're playing Zakori in the 10, I think of the old Dele Alli I've got in my head, and I'm thinking, he could play in the 10 and he could actually make us good, but then you do think he's not that. You forget, all you think of when you think of Dele Alli is the £120 million Tottenham player that could have gone Real Madrid. You don't think of the big flop that he's become. So
it's sad as well, isn't it? It's really sad because he had so much potential. I mean, he reminded me, this is showing my age a little bit, of an old David Platt, the way he goes in the box, scored a load of goals. He, all the time so influential, and all of a sudden something happened out there, and he just lost all confidence and form.
Yeah,
never know.
That's it.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like Harry said here as well.
Van der Beek as well.
Yeah. There's so many players, and it's so difficult. And like Dan said, with Dele Alli at Everton, the amount of players that have come onto the scene young, they've had to change their personality and grow up. Sometimes the growing up doesn't help, and then they have either mental health problems and different things like that. So it's definitely a difficult one. But I think we've done a very good topic on that one. So let's get back to our final game of Saturday. But I really appreciate that one, guys. So
That's good.
Dan, obviously this one I know probably won't make you happy, but I'm going to have to do it. So we're going to go to Anfield, and we're going to go Liverpool 2, Aston Villa 0. Who actually saw the game before I throw it at someone? Did anyone? Okay, right.
I watched it bits and bobs.
Yeah, I'll go Henry first, and then I'll let Dan have his nice say on his local rivals on that. So, what did you make of this one, Henry?
Yeah, it was a game that I remember speaking about it last week, or maybe a couple of weeks ago, when we were talking about Villa, and Villa have had again a decent start to the season. I don't think Villa fans would be like jumping and screaming about their start to the season, obviously sitting ninth. And for me, as much as Dan's going to hate it, I'm absolutely loving watching Liverpool and what they're doing. I mean, I don't really care. I don't really care season in, season out who wins the league. But it is nice to see, City falling off a little bit and somebody else coming through. Obviously, everyone kind of I'm sure Dan does, writes off the Liverpool title win as a COVID trophy, and there's a nice big asterisk next to it, which I'm sure Dan probably reminds any red. I don't know if you have any red mates, you might not, but if you do, you might remind them of that. I think it was a really good game. I think
I block them. I block them all, mate. To be fair.
There you go. Fair enough. I can't criticise that.
At least he's honest. At least he's honest.
I think Liverpool are just quietly just getting on with business, and they're doing it just an exceptional job. I think you cannot take any credit away from Arne Slot. Those were massive boots to fill. Of that German C-bomb.
You say that though. You say that, but I watch your game again, and this really frustrates. I watch you against them, and you should not have let them beat you. The amount of chances that Crystal Palace had, and this is why you'll get relegated if you don't step up, Crystal Palace, because the amount of chances you had, and you didn't make them pay. And this is how a lot of their games have been. But people just say, "Oh yeah, the one." You could have drew against them, if not beat them. I watch you, and the amount of chances that you had, you probably should have had Mateta on earlier on, because he destroyed them. They couldn't handle him when you brought him on.
Of course, and I get what you're saying, but
exactly
when we get to May and Liverpool win the league, they're not going to look back and give a single toss about the game where they
need to step up.
Arsenal need to step up. Chelsea need to step up. Yeah, but then you could say that about when Everton beat Palace. Palace could have taken chances. Palace could have done this. Palace could have done that. You watch any Premier League game this season, and other than maybe one that Southampton are involved in, I don't mean any respect to them, but they're
not as good. But if I would have watched Crystal Palace against them and they would have battered you, I mean, remember we beat Crystal Palace. Don't brag about it, but remember we beat you. But
done better. Yeah, Palace should have done better.
You should have, 100%.
And I said that earlier.
So they're not that good.
I completely agree with you.
So they're not that good.
But you can't say they're not that good because they have won.
Then there wasn't though, because you dominated them. You really should have, but you battered them towards the end of the game. I watched it,
but they won the game
because of you.
Like I said, when we get
wasn't his fault.
And like I said, I wasn't on the pitch. But like I said, when we
can't imagine telling him what to do.
When we get to May and Liverpool have won the Premier League, which I think they could definitely do, there is no one that's going to look back, other than maybe Dan, that says, "Oh well, they've won the league, but they shouldn't have because they got lucky against this team and they shouldn't have got 3 points there and they got jammy there."
One thing I will say is that if they win the league, it's been the massive part to play with it is Arsenal being shite when they should have been a lot better. Is Man City being the worst they've ever been, and Manchester City being the worst they've ever been, and Chelsea as well, Like,
but you know what
I'm watching Arsenal personally. I'm watching Arsenal to do well because I'd rather Arsenal win the league than them. So I'm watching Arsenal thinking, like Arsenal last season, they put up a good fight to win the league and was really unlucky. If they would have done the same this season, they would have had it so easy because the league's been shocking this season. But
it's been unpredictable
this season.
Yeah,
Arsenal decided to not show.
Well, I blame Stone Cold Sean Dyche. That's who I blame.
but I do genuinely.
And that's the bottom line.
The kind of main point was.
I blame you, Arsenal, for not getting Oshiman. You know what I mean? You should have got Oshiman. But whatever his name is.
But for Arne Slot coming in and taking over the reins from Klopp, Klopp who's transformed that club, and as much as David Keat might think that what he thinks of him. I think, and I've got my opinions on Jurgen Klopp. I'm sure Dan has. I'm not going to get you started on that just yet. We can talk about that when we talk about Coop.
There's no Sean Dyche.
But for Arne Slot, stepping in and filling those shoes, and Slot's not needed a transition period. He's not needed any time to kind of adjust.
Right, Sean Dyche, that's saying something. You know what I mean?
I don't think you can take any credit away from Liverpool. I really don't. I think that they have been brilliant. They've been clinical. They've taken chances when they've got them. They've seen out wins. And Palace could have done better against them, but they rode that wave, they rode the pressure, and then they saw out the game to win. And I was at that game, I was at Selhurst, and we had a lot of chances, but their substitute keeper came on and did really well. Van Dijk was immense, as he normally is. Gravenberch ran the show. These are like. I just feel like Liverpool are at a point now where their whole team's being consistent. Their manager's come in and hasn't needed any sort of
sick
period.
You've got a big smile on your face when you talk about their players. I literally feel sick when I watch them.
But of course you do. But I could say the same about Brighton. I don't enjoy talking about Brighton doing well, but you've got to face the facts sometimes, Dan. And Brighton are doing well at the minute.
I just watched them against Chelsea. I know Chelsea should have beat them. I watched them against Chelsea. I know Chelsea should have beat them. I watched you play them. I know you should have beat them. If all the other teams are bottling it on beating them, then when they play Everton in the derby coming up, we'll beat them and we'll start it and we'll start the rot. They're only 9 points ahead. We'll beat them. And then
when is that game,
Dan?
How far off is that?
I can't remember the exact date, but it's coming up.
It is.
I think it's.
I love to hear the optimism. I'll say that.
7th of
we'll
December.
beat them, and then I'll say to you, it's not so hard, and then we'll start the decline. But
I tell you something, I'd love it if we beat them.
I hope you do. I hope you step up and beat them. To be fair, they need to get beat.
Yeah, and obviously this game didn't help Villa's run because definitely they are a bit up and down at the moment, aren't they?
I did speak about it to you. I took it on you two again, but I did. The end of my first arrival on the channel, I did say to you that Aston Villa when we played them, we was 2-0 up, and I didn't rate them that much, and we let them come back 3-2 too easy for me. And I did say to you that they're not as good as a lot of people are saying. I do think they had this in them.
But I think they also had it in them purely because of the fact that they're playing in the Champions League this season for the first time. They're juggling the European football. I don't think. Oh, Harry's saying Emery being figured out. I don't think so. I think it's just the reality. We see it constantly. Teams that haven't played in Europe for a while get European football, and then they struggle in the Premier League. When West Ham won the Europa Conference League, they didn't have a very good domestic season. Like, this does happen. I don't think it's shocking. I think Villa are in a position which I find interesting, that I think they have a brilliant squad and brilliant depth, and having the freedom to kind of make those changes in games. But then they're obviously making sacrifices. I think they're going to take the Champions League really seriously. They didn't take the League Cup seriously, which is why
I really want
Palace
Villa
were able
to. I
go
just
there
want
and
to
win.
point out because I do know Villa fans and stuff, and I like Villa because I want a team to push into that top that other people don't want, and I do like Villa as a football club, and I do want them to do well. I really do want Villa to do well, but like I say, I did just think they probably weren't as good as they come across.
But I don't think it would be fair to say that Emery's been found out or anything like Harry put in the chat. They're sitting ninth, they're pretty comfortable, they're not having a bad season. They're on a poor run at the minute, but they have had tough games. One's a cup game that they didn't really, to be honest, give two tosses about against Palace. That you could see that from the starting lineup and how they played. Then they go to Spurs, who needed a win desperately, and we spoke about that the week before, obviously. And
a lot of injuries as well
after the Palace loss. A lot of injuries. And then you go to a place like Club Brugge, and they lost their first game in the Champions League to a penalty, which was just fucking stupid from Tyrone Mings. And that happened, and then it's Liverpool away. But, they're on a bad run of games at the minute. But, and then, looking at that, they've got Juventus as well coming up after the international break. But I don't think Emery's been found out. I think it's a bit too early to kind of be throwing that about. I think it's one of those where you've got to kind of wait and see what happens with them.
I think I'm in a good position to say something about this one because I was there. I was there in the bad times when Emery's. You were probably loving that over the road. So this Emery fella, he's great. He's just putting Arsenal to the ground. They're not even showing up.
He looks like the child catcher from Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. That's the problem, mate.
Oh, I don't. That's an accusation you don't want, isn't it? Really?
No, exactly. That's the problem.
No, yeah, exactly. He woun't be having a good evening there. No.
Yeah, he looks like the Dracula, doesn't he? The Dracula from Adam Sandler, Dracula.
Let's get it back on track. Let's get it back on track. Come on. Because look, I get it, and I've had this all blinking season. So to the point, I'm sick of the comparison between Emery and Arteta, to be honest with you. But it's an interesting point that Harry said in the chat there about has he been figured out? Because I think a lot of teams had figured him out when he was Arsenal manager, and then all of a sudden, in his credit, he's come back to the Premier League and he's got Aston Villa to a fantastic position where they came over to qualifying for the Champions League, and what a start to the Champions League campaign they've had this season as well. So I think Harry is stirring a little bit because of the Arsenal connection over here as well.
I think H just always likes to ask the questions that some of us don't and all that, so we'll be very good on that. But definitely Villa have impressed a lot of people. And I mean, since they got rid of a lot of their backroom staff, they turned a new leaf with getting Monchi in, who's obviously one of the best transfer directors in Europe.
He's no Eddie.
Emre, yeah, that's the thing. Well, yeah. And having Emre leading them, definitely Villa have impressed me. And no matter how many games they do lose, they always still come back. And I think they are missing maybe that linchpin they did have in Douglas Luiz. A lot of the players that they did get in the summer as part of that deal, they have sent on loan as well. Right. But no, I think you guys are right. They are definitely up there. And I think it's just unfortunate to come up against a Liverpool team who are very in form in there. Dan, I'm not going to go down that road. Don't worry, I'll rub any salt in it. But they are definitely in that top position for a reason. They have been winning games and going forward for it, and we can't deny it. I don't think they've played great under Slot for half of them games, and I think they were appalling against Forest when they played them. They ran out of ideas and weren't creative. But I think this was maybe just one game too far for them at the moment. But I definitely see Villa being at least pushing top six this year. They've definitely got that aspect to it, because theoretically they could do well in the Champions League. They could get to the later stages, and then if they do get knocked out, then their focus changes back onto the league. You can obviously see they weren't interested in the League Cup. So we just have to appreciate that Villa are a top team now. And they are going to be in the top six probably for the next couple of years going forward, at least pushing Europe. And I think we're all in agreement that them, Brighton, and probably Forest as well are the most likely ones to be pushing into that area at this present time. So let's jump onto our Sunday fixtures, and we will go to a game which realistically probably had it on the cards, but
Yeah.
still very interesting. It seems to be that since Ten Hag did go and that Van Nistelrooy did take over for a couple of games. I know we found out that he won't be staying this week and as Amarin's assistant or anything like that, and Amarin is the new manager. But we are looking at a United win at Old Trafford, probably one of their first ones of the season. Definitely when Van Nistelrooy was leading it, they did seem to score more goals and keep a lower goal tally down, but definitely seeing this against Leicester, I wasn't too shocked. So, Dan, let me come over to you on this one, mate. Do you think this was a justified result, or do you think that it's just one of them where Leicester's a free hit for quite a few teams this season?
Leicester, a team that I come up and I said it before on this, that I thought was really poor when they was come up and was going to struggle, but on paper they don't look that decent, but they do fight and they do get results. So this could have been a game where Leicester could have turned up and won 1-0, but it doesn't surprise you that with the manager change, United have gone and won it 3-0. I'm interested on to see what Manchester United are going to do over time, though. I mean, we do see this like when a new manager comes in, but they've still got the same players for me. They've still got the same players. Maybe this manager's going to come in and the manager has been the problem. But I'm really interested to see with Manchester United was it the manager that was the problem? Is the manager going to come in and connect these players? Or is this manager going to come in and you're going to see the same stuff from these players and they're going to end up losing games again?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a mismatched squad there, isn't there? They've got the equivalent of players of about 7, including Johnny Evans, literally still being around, stinking the place up one way or another. But
it's mad. Like for me, when Manchester United, I didn't get much to say on last time, but for me, it's mad that a big club like Manchester United, they haven't gone strong in their academy, because you'd think they'd have one of the best academies around and they would have kept that big name. It's big to play for Manchester, but they've lost it. It hasn't got that Manchester United feel anymore. Like normally a player, if you say they could play for Manchester, they snap their hands off. But now even players leave Manchester United and don't want to play for them, and they haven't got the same name for me. And you can't believe that Manchester United has got someone like Maguire. You would have thought he would have been moved on by now. Eriksen, a player like that. They should have someone young, top talent, hungry, but they've had Eriksen back in the team. I mean, Eriksen class, by the way, back in the day, but I don't think Manchester United should be too good for Eriksen now, if you know what I'm saying. There's some of them, all these old players that go get in Manchester United squad, I'm thinking. If we talk about Brighton, the perfect model, it feels like Manchester United have done nothing over the years. But you actually look at the money they've spent and the money they've flopped. They've done really, really bad, haven't they? They have done so bad.
You make a really good point there, mate, because obviously the only people that realistically from United's academy who have broken through are Garnacho, Diallo and Mainu. Yeah. And there was that centre-back that they started playing last year, and instead they sold him to a club in Spain and ended up bringing in another player in like De Ligt or something like that, who doesn't look suited to the Premier League one bit for definite. And yeah, the Brighton model, where at least when Radcliffe came in, that's what they should be aiming for, not spunking another 200 million up the wall and a load of Dutch players who most likely...
Is that a technical term?
Yes, that will be a technical term on Radcliffe being in there.
It's mad though, because you think like Sancho, how much he costs. Then who's the other winger, the Brazilian that they got?
Anthony from Ajax.
Anthony. Yeah. They brought him. Then you'd think they would have learned. And last season, when they was trying to buy Braithwaite off us, they said, we're not paying stupid money. We've learned. We're going to do good business. And then straight after, they went and brought that young centre-back, who I don't think is that good, that got injured straight away.
You're right.
They went and brought another centre-back in that's been around everywhere. He's been Juventus, but he's clearly not that good. Because you wouldn't go to so many teams if you was good. The teams would keep you, in my opinion. Then they brought that Holland striker from Atlanta, who I think... These are players they could have had in their academy, and then they've gone and brought the other lad, the other striker that they've got now as well.
Bologna.
You just can't believe it. It's mad. It's mad. Like I say, it's crazy. They said they learned when they was linked to Braithwaite. They said they learned, but then they went and blown loads of money again, and those players stay. Like I said to you, they're on long contracts. They don't go away. And I don't think those players was the right fit or the right answers for Manchester United.
It's a big job for the new manager to come into, isn't it? And I don't know too much about him. I did see his sporting side play Manchester City last week, and they do set up very different to how United set up. So it will be very interesting to see how he comes across. What he's going to be given the chance to do with his current squad, if he wants to, is he going to have to sell some of the players? I even had a United fan talk to me today, a good mate of mine in work, Jack, who was saying, I mean, it doesn't look like someone like Rashford, who's someone who has come up from their academy. Does he fit along that sort of model? I don't know, and like I said, it's a funny one with United where you've got so many players that have come in over so many different managers as well, and you're going to another one coming in mid-season, and it's a case of wanting to get the best out of the season, and then where'd you go in the summer? That's what they'll be learning to probably try and get up to the Europa places or something like that. Yeah, that's probably realistic, but it's going to be a hard job to do. But one thing for Ten Hag that he's got on something that I think we all crave is picking up trophies, and you can't deny he did that. So that's one thing he's got on a lot of the managers in the moment that are in charge of our lots at the moment. Is the trophies.
And that's the thing, exactly. Henry, if I come to you on this one, mate, obviously, like we've all said, the identity of United is definitely not there. And yes, they have won this game, but do you feel there is a stepping stone for Amorim to come straight in and be able to hit the ground running on this? Because when I look at their squad, he plays a 3-4-2-1 style or a 3-4-3 style in terms of the way that they play at Sporting. I cannot see half of the players, at least at United, being in a position to be able to play that unless you convert into wing-back style or something like that. Do you feel they're good enough?
I think it's a good question. I think just briefly, I'll say that I think United are a club that are kind of rotting in a sense, from the ground, from like even to the stadium, to the training facilities, everything like that. We've heard countless players come out and talk about how poor it is there. And I think they are a club that, as much as I've never really liked Manchester United. I think it's one of those things where they're a big club, and it's going to have to, something's going to have to click at some point. I think Amorim's a great manager. I remember speaking before they announced that, when kind of the interest was just very, very early, and saying that I wasn't sure if someone like Amorim would want to go to Man United. Obviously, that's been proven to not be the case. I think your point about the personnel and the system that he plays is very interesting. I think, like a Diogo Dalot would do a great job as a wing back, but then you look at someone like Garnacho and where there's a space for him in the team. Does he get converted to a left wing back? Can he do the job there? I think, you've got, they struggle to find a centre back pairing, and now they're going to be needing to find a back three that can play together. I think United probably one of the teams last season that changed their centre back partnership more than anyone else. We even saw Johnny Evans starting with Harry Maguire, and so then it's about finding a back three out of those. Yeah, when they're all fit, you've got on paper, at least three good defenders, but we haven't seen enough of Lenny Yoro, who's now injured and I think is out for the majority of the season. De Ligt, as Dan touched on, is a player that I actually thought it was a good signing when he came in. I think he is a good player.
You thought he was legit?
He hasn't hit the ground running. But then you're going to look at playing, two centre mid. So it's going to be Ugarte because he played well under Amorim before. So it'll be Ugarte, and then Bruno Fernandes plays deeper. You don't have that kind of central 10. I think there is no world for me in which Amorim comes in and it all turns rosy straight away. And I think that's when people will start to look at the likes of Arne Slot and the likes of Fabian Hürzeler that are able to come in and get their team playing well instantly. And I think, even with a system, it's going to be a big change for United. And I think it comes down to, are the fans patient enough? Are the players that they have at the minute good enough? And how much money they're going to have to spend in January? Because I do think they're going to have to go in and just back Amorim and buy players that suit his style and suit his system. And if Amorim wants someone like Gyökeres, even though you've just spent 60 million on Xerxes, you go out and spend however much you need to get on Gyökeres, because I think you've got to back him completely. And I know they've done it with Ten Hag and it didn't quite work. But then, I spoke to my dad recently when we were watching United, and it was like, what is United's style of play? They don't have a style of play. You think of Liverpool and you think counter-attacks. You think of Man City and you think possession. You think of Arsenal and you think a bit inconsistent. But, they kind of try and play that football and create lots of chances. Manchester United haven't had a style of play synonymous with them for a very long time. They kind of just, oh yeah, we'll just see what happens. Bruno Fernandes might do something well. If Bruno has a bad game and he gets himself sent off, then we've lost. I just feel like they really need someone to come in and just reinforce that identity. And I'm not excited because I don't really particularly want Man United to do well, but I am interested to see how Amorim comes in and is able to kind of implement his style and his philosophy and his ethos on not just the first starting 11 and the results, but also the club as a whole.
No, I
think personally with Manchester United, I don't think the owners, and it's just an outside opinion as an Everton fan, I don't think the owners let any manager do things right. I just when you've got Fernandes, Mount was never the right signing for me. When you look, you wouldn't even think they've got Mason Mount. Crazy. I just think the owners always have a say, and I think unless you give the sporting director and the manager full control to completely get Manchester United need to get rid of a lot of players, don't they? They need to get rid of a lot and start fresh. Because when you listen to Roy Keane on the stuff, he's like, he's not proud of Man United. He hates it. Roy Keane hates what Manchester United. He can't call any of them. Yeah, well, it's true though. None of the Manchester United, they should, with what they used to be, they should when like could say last season or the season before, they should have been bringing in Bellingham. They should have been bringing in the Napoli striker, Oshiman, whatever his name is. They should have been every player Manchester United should have been bringing in was the big boy players to get themselves back to that name, but they're not. They're going buying Ericssons and Johnny Evans. Mad. And it's crazy how times have changed.
That's the thing. Exactly. I think Man United have definitely lost their way, but I think definitely this was a game that was very one-sided. Man United had everything going for them, and it's a shame that a legend like Van Nistelrooy has had to leave them, because I actually quite liked him as a player, and he was a very good coach within reason. He hasn't done too bad wherever he's gone. But let's jump to our second game of Sunday, and we will go to Forest. And this one had all the makings of a good game, and I think Forest fans were very shocked by the end of it. So, Lee, I'm going to come to you on this one, mate. Definitely, Forest have been pushing to the top of the table, haven't they? They are pushing to second and third. They've been taking Arsenal's place. They're pushing City tight to it as well. Did you expect this to be anything more than a Forest win on this one?
No, I didn't. To be honest, I expected a Forest win. Of course I did. But and for the opening part of the game, that's looked like how it was going to end. What was surprising was, when Forest went ahead, that something which we hadn't seen really of Forest during the season happened, and that's credit to Newcastle, and particularly the likes of Anthony Gordon, who's been a thorn in a lot of our sides over the season. I think how influential he is, and I think even Almiron as well was really good on Sunday as well. That managed to get back into the game and win it convincingly at the end. But I didn't expect Forest to slip up. But then again, that's a sign of how, is a general how Forest have improved during the season. So weird one, and it's another great case of how this season's been surprising everyone with results that we don't expect. You say the game's been a lot easier if it's been played on paper, wouldn't it?
No, exactly.
It'll be a lot more predictable, that's for sure. Yeah, I think just quickly, I don't think that, to be honest, I don't think there is too much to say about this game other than what Lee's already said, that it is definitely a marker for where this Premier League season's at. I think anyone can beat anyone, and I kind of like that at the moment. We could. I'd say it. I hope so. Palace could go away to Aston Villa after the international break and get another win. You just never know. You've got some interesting games in there. Leicester are hosting Chelsea. That could be a good game. You know, Arsenal have Forest at home. Again,
Forest at home,
Forest
yeah.
will go and do what they did to Liverpool. I think it is.
Mm.
There's a lot of. It seems like every match week you're seeing results that are kind of eyebrow raisers or would be in past seasons. I think if you'd shown even just this weekend's set of results to all four of us this time last season, I think you'd be.
We wouldn't have predicted it. No,
exactly.
at all.
And I am enjoying it. I think it's going to be. It's one of the most competitive Premier Leagues we've had in a while, in a sense.
Dan, let's
When
come
I was
to you,
last
mate.
on the when I was last on your show, I think the results that you're looking at, I'm pretty sure the results that you was asking me was just when Newcastle lost against Chelsea, and I mentioned I watched that, and I said to you, Newcastle, I was surprised how good there was against them, and then you asked me my prediction of the score, and I did say that Newcastle would beat Arsenal because I thought they was good against Chelsea, and they did go on to beat Arsenal. And I said to John, John Sinclair was on, and he wasn't that impressed with Newcastle. He was really angry, and I said to him, "You wasn't bad against Chelsea," and I said to him, "You'll have a chance against Arsenal." And they went on to beat Arsenal. They didn't. It didn't surprise me. And this, like, I know Forest are on a good run, but it doesn't surprise me at all that Newcastle have beat them 3-1. Forest are doing well, but I think Newcastle are a lot better team. And it doesn't surprise me that scoreline is that scoreline. And it seems, like I say, they played well against Chelsea. They beat Arsenal, which was a massive result because Arsenal needed that. And then they've gone on to beat Forest, who was playing pretty decent. So Newcastle looked like they picked up, which John will probably listen in and be happy to.
Well, that's the thing. When we was talking a couple of weeks ago, obviously Newcastle were in a bit of an injury crisis, weren't they? Was playing Anthony Gordon as the front man, all of that. Now they've got Isak back. I mean, he's come back, and I think he's got like 2 or 3 goals in 4 games now since he's been back. So I mean, it shows how just the
biggest thing was Joe Linton as well. I thought John was talking about how bad Joe Linton was, and I think he started performing a bit better, which is he was massive on them doing well this season.
He listened to John. That's what it was.
Yeah, probably.
Well, he's probably the only person that listens to John. Let's put it that way. And I know I've got
John. Listen to John. John's the man.
John's top guy. I love John.
John's brilliant. To be fair, I'll give him that. Yeah. Right, let's move on from this one then. Right, that's.
I'm waiting.
That
have you got you last?
The next one. I think the next one's Chelsea Arsenal, isn't it? And then done that.
Yeah, well, yeah.
No, we're not letting you off there. We're not letting you off there.
Right, fuck it. I'm just getting it over and done with. I know you guys. I'll let you guys talk about this one. I'm not going to say a word.
Okay, so obviously at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, there's a bit of an upset. Newly promoted Ipswich, goals from the visitors won 2-1. Ipswich.
Is that April Fools? Is it April Fools? That
I promise you, it's on my screen right now. I can guarantee you that was the score. 2-1.
Has he got 2-1 the wrong way round? So, you must have got the 2-1 the wrong way round.
Hang on.
What I'll do is I'm going to go to our
Callum,
and I'm going to ask him quickly. How are you feeling, Callum?
Oh, this had all the makings of a great game for Spurs to actually recover, because we did rest half of our team in the week, and turns out the old Spursy tag came back, where we decided to pull our pants down and go, we're going to get done in by a load of people from Ipswich who had a nice coach journey down the A12 and the M11, the M25, and they really did us no bloody favours whatsoever. But no, it was definitely, there's that for you and that for the rest of you. There you go.
Ooh.
There you go. No, to be honest, it was an embarrassing game. We was nowhere near it in that first half. I think we had a couple of chances, but they were half at best. Ipswich outplayed us completely, and when Smodic scored as well, I mean, Jesus, that was a brilliant goal. But it all came from our own. Yeah, it came from mistakes from Spurs. We were second best team in that first half, and the fact was, it just looked like Ange wasn't in control. The players weren't in control. There was no composure from us whatsoever. And I think it got to half time when we was 2-0 down. And I thought maybe a couple of changes might have made an impact. but he went with the same team again. And when you think, I think it got to about the 64th minute, it might have been, until we made our first sub, and we was all talking about how managers can change games by making different impacts. I mean, when you think we took off Pape Sarr, we brought on Timo Werner of all players. I mean, what influence does that have on a game? Sweet FA. We had a goal chalked offside for rightfully handball as well. And then it took him, we scored in the 88th minute, and it took him then until the 85th to make our second and third subs. And only then he brought on Basuma and Maddison. And to be honest, the game was gone by probably 60th minute, I'd say.
Right.
And Ipswich rightfully outplayed us, to be honest. We cannot get away from it that they played a compact back line. We couldn't get around it. We had no creativity. We didn't know how to play through their defence, and rightfully so, they won. It was a really toxic atmosphere at Spurs, to be honest, as well. It wasn't positive at all, and it's one of them where you actually do look at Ange and you think, was it you? Was it the players to do it? And definitely his game management let him down, but the players let Spurs down as well. So I'll let you guys have your thoughts on it now.
Callum, I've got an exclusive.
John Meikle.
Pick me.
Pick me.
Pick me.
I'll go with Lee first. I know he's going to rinse me on this one.
I've got an exclusive for you. It was my fault. I put the curse on Solanke. I play FBL and I made him captain just in the hope that it would all go wrong, and it did. So you're welcome.
Oh, don't. Right, God, Dan, let's come over to you, mate, because I know I think I deserve what I'm going to get.
I want to point out I did watch this whole game, and I completely disagree with you. I actually watched the game, and I think that you actually played the best I've ever seen you play. And I think this is where you're at.
All time.
You are going to be in a relegation battle. I disagree with you. I think Spurs played the best you've ever played. And I think you've been punching above your weight. And I watched you this game, and Spurs played the best they can play. And Ipswich is just a better team. And I'm not going to lie, I think they'll finish above you this season.
He is flirting with that end stream.
I think they'll finish above you this season, to be fair.
He can't do that.
That's all I'm going to say.
No, what I
can do is you got beat by the better team. And you're like, just like when boxing you lose your titles, you're only as good as your last game. And to me, you're not as good as Ipswich. That's all.
It's just how they are, mate.
I mean, it's all right. I can keep us three on here. I can just remove Dan. It's wonderful. I can just remove him. I could just
StreamYard's wonderful, isn't it?
Oh,
I'm only being honest. I'm only being honest. Right.
Oh, don't. Right.
You know what? It's funny though, because we spoke last time on the channel. We had a bit of head to head, and you just lost against. Was it Crystal Palace? You lost against?
Yeah, I think it was Palace, weren't it?
Yeah, you just lost against Crystal Palace. So I was literally, you was giving it large to me, and I had the good factor that I could use against you that you lost against Crystal Palace, and then you had a really good game after that, where you got back on track and played well and beat a big team. So if I was on the stream with you then, you could have said, oh, we've just beat these, we're good again. But then thankfully, you played Ipswich before I played, and I can now say that Ipswich are better than you. So I've caught you at a good time.
Wonderful.
What's the deal with Maddison? What's the deal with Maddison then? You said he was a substitute. Has he been having a bit of a bad time for you, sir?
He's actually been playing all right, to be honest. I wonder whether it's based on he is a bit of a passenger in games. He has these moments where he can come up with the magic. I don't think he's consistent enough, though, as a player that, like Dan has alluded to, if you want to be top teams, you have to have the players who can turn it on all the time. I don't think Spurs have.
He reminds me of Mason Mount in a lot of ways in that sense. He used good moments, and it can't really. And actually, reminds me of Eze this season. Like technically a great player, but too much of a moments player. And I think turns it on in moments. But we've looked at Eze and I think the main difference between a player like that and for us, obviously, the big comparison was who's better, Eze or Elise. And every Palace fan that you ask will say Elise 100% because Elise had the ability to grab the game and do what he wanted with it, whilst Eze kind of needs the game to flow in his favour. He needs it to be played at the tempo that he likes, that gives him the space to do what he can do. And I do think that Maddison is extremely similar in that sense.
Yeah, I
Interesting.
make you right on that one, mate. And it always comes down to when I look at Arsenal, for example, someone like Odegaard, who is pretty much consistently very good and can turn a game on its head. And we've all seen Arsenal struggle without him being in the squad as well. The players like Eze, like Maddison. I mean, for you, Dan, could you say maybe Calvert-Lewin? Because I know you guys don't really have that playmaking aspect, do you, too much under Dyche? But who would sort of be a big moments player for you guys who you would say
and Jai's,
isn't always there?
obviously, Iliman and Jai, I spoke about him early. He's been massive for us this season. He's got, if you can get him on the ball, running at players, you've got a good chance of getting a goal. Iliman and Jai, we've been crying out for a creative player. And he's I can't believe we've got him, and I think we're going to struggle to keep him. He's a proper player, but we ain't got the right tactics at the minute to get him up the pitch in the right positions.
And I think that's the same with Eze, with Mason, with Maddison as well. They're big moments players who, if you can get them into games, they can do stuff, but they have to be consistent. And I think in Maddison's case, he's not consistent enough. And everyone said what a great buy he was from Leicester when he got us. Well, I always looked at it and thought, well, why has he only just been at Leicester? He's gone from Coventry to Norwich to Leicester sort of thing. He's 25, 26 now. He's never fully been consistently there. He's never been consistent for England. He's never been more than a half a season sort of player. He's always been a passenger for a lot of it. And when I look at someone like him compared to Kulusevski, I mean, Kulusevski for us this season has done 10 times more than Maddison has compared to it. And
but then I completely understand what you're saying, and I think that I find it really interesting the point you just made about him prior to signing for Spurs and being at Leicester and being 25. I think I've actually, it's only kind of just now as we've been talking about this that I built this comparison in my head. But when you look at Eze and Maddison, they are so similar in that sense because obviously Eze is a similar age now, and I got a feeling that Palace would do very well to get a good transfer fee for Eze because I think he's one of those players. Like I absolutely adore him, and he's magic at times. But he just requires the game to be played at his tempo too much. He wants the game to be slowed down. He wants to be able to do his thing, but he's not really got the skill set to adapt. And when it's not going well, to kind of get back in and win the ball and then do what you want to do from deep or switch it up and change your skill set. And that's why, and again, your comparison between Maddison and Kulusevski, it's just reminding me of the narrative that Palace fans had when we had both Eze and Elise. And I think that there's no question that the players like Kulusevski and Elise 100% were able to just grab the ball at their feet, grab a game by the scruff of their neck, and just do magic things with the ball, create chances out of nothing. Whereas Eze and Maddison kind of rely on, if you're having a good game, if your side's having a good game, Maddison's probably having a good game, and I could say the same about Eze. But if Eze and Maddison aren't having a good game, Palace and Spurs probably aren't playing very well either. So I think they are kind of relying on their team. Go on, Dan.
What was Romero like? Because Romero is someone that I didn't rate him last season. I know a lot of Spurs fans really rate Romero, but I feel that he's sometimes. I've always said that you start from the back, and I think a lot of people don't realise how much of your football is won from how good your centre backs are on the ball. And sometimes, if I look at Spurs all around the pitch, I think your centre backs probably let you down. Sometimes I think you've got a good centre back in there.
The Dutch fella,
the Dutch fella's good, but Ramirez, he's not someone on paper that I think, and I also do think if I was to say, you probably need someone good at the side of Basuma behind Maddison, and I know you love Sarr, but I do think if you had a big name at the side of him, like a big baller, like a Rodri type of talent, a proper because Spurs, they haven't got that. We're going to keep the ball like Manchester City, have they? They haven't got that, but they could. You're not far away because I do believe Maddison is really good. By the way, I think he's class. But he needs people behind him that are going to always control the game and get him on the ball in the right positions. And it seems you struggle with that sometimes. Yeah, it seems you struggle with that.
But no, you've made some really valid points there, mate. So, I mean, obviously, Romero, you wouldn't think the way that he's been playing this year, he's a World Cup winning centre-back and all that. When you think of how good he plays for Argentina, when you look at how he is for us this year, he's been culpable for ball watching. He's been rash and reckless again. And to be honest, he didn't have a bad game at the weekend. If anything, Dragusin had the worst game for us, the young Romanian centre-back who we've got, because Van der Ven's out injured at the moment. But Dragusin's had a really bad week. He played poorly against Galatasaray and then really poor
I saw that game, actually.
As well.
Yeah, and that game, I think that game is that game for me was another. I think it's really easy for people to look at Spurs losing games and go, "Oh, that's very Spursy." But I think if you actually watch, I watched that entire game because I actually enjoy watching Galatasaray. I started watching them when Zaha was there last season, and I think they play watching that full game. You just got beaten by a very good side and a side that was well drilled and a side that knew exactly how they were meant to play. And
Osherman destroyed them. Yeah.
Exactly, but then what I found interesting watching that game is that I find watching that game and I'm sat there thinking every time I look up, Galatasaray are attacking, and I know that you made a lot of changes, so I'll give you that. But I think that you've got these players like Romero who obviously didn't. I don't think he played that game, but he. We talk about how good he is for Argentina, but I think he's kind of hidden in a sense when he's playing for Argentina because you're playing in a side that has such incredible talent all over the pitch. When he's at Spurs, he's more isolated. He was in that. There's that clip that's been doing the rounds where the ball's dropping and he kind of fluffs the header and then he can't get back and recover. And I think I think he's an okay defender. I don't think he's world class, and I think that's the difference between a Spurs and a Man City, if you like, or an Arsenal who have Saliba and Gabriel, who are two world class centre backs.
Yeah, when you think
I was just going to chuck in. I was just going to chuck on you. Do you know when you I watched a lot of Dragusin when you first signed him for the team he was before, and I watched him obviously for his international club. I think he is a good centre back, and we've had it with O'Brien that's come to us. I think he's a good centre back. Do you think because he's not been getting in, he's struggled to blend into you properly? Because I think there is a player in him. Do you think he's struggled because players have got in? You've not done well with him, but he is a good player.
There's not enough integration into the team yet and all that. And when you think he's been there nearly 9-10 months now, I mean, that's where us not having Europe last year, I think we really struggled because the amount of games we did have was very limited by the time we came in. We probably had about 12 or 13 left. And I think he got 2 or 3 games with a couple of sub appearances in that. I mean, like you said with O'Brien, I think he's had 24 minutes or something like that in the Premier League since he came in for you guys in January. So, I mean, definitely there's got to be, Angie's very set in his ways and he doesn't change it. It's that if Romero loses out, Van der Ven's going to pick it up with his pace. That's the whole thing, that high line. And I'm not fully on board with the high line. I think a lot of people are questioning it. Ange not being adaptable in games as well. But I think when you have people like Romero who can be a passenger, Maddison who can be a passenger at times, and that lack of a proper 6 as well. And I think so many teams do struggle with not having that 6 role because, I mean, there's only 2 that I fully rate. Well, I would say 3 that I would rate properly in the Premier League, and that would be Rodri, Rice and Walton when he did play there a couple of years ago.
I'm glad you said that because I was gonna point that out.
Terrific player.
As maybe another reason that Palace is struggling is because, I mean, in the game where we beat you, Walton played and he was superb. And I think that
because you had him, you had Hughes ahead of him and someone else, didn't you? And
exactly. And obviously now Hughes is out, Wharton's out as well. And I think also the lack of Doucouré. And I think you're completely right. Is when a team has that 6 that can kind of monitor in front of the back line, it not only it kind of takes obviously the workload off of the back 2 centre backs because there's less balls going through. but they also do a bit more in terms of making the centre backs look better on the ball. You know, if you're able, as a centre half, if you're able to just pop a ball inside your six, you can then turn and hit a ball on a sixpence diagonally 40 yards. It makes you look a lot better than when, you know, maybe at the moment for Spurs they don't have that centre mid that's dropping. I know for Palace we haven't had that. So, you know, we saw at the weekend Lacroix made an awful mistake from a quick free kick where he's given the ball away. But if Wharton's on the pitch there, he's there as an option, and that ball goes in there. And I think having that six, that Rodri, Rice, that kind of player, it alleviates so much pressure on the back line because there's an option when you're in possession, but when you're out of possession, there's a guy there that works his pants off to win the ball back and does it consistently as well.
Our hope was Basuma was going to be that, and to be honest, I don't think Basuma has been anywhere near the player that he was at Brighton.
I watched a lot of Basuma for Brighton because I wanted him for Everton back in the day. But if you watched him for Brighton, he actually plays higher. He runs. He's like a box to box,
he's that 8 box to box. Yeah,
exactly. And he's just made a really good point below because you need a number 6, you need your Pirlo to come and get the ball and take the weight off your centre backs. You know what I mean? Maddison wants to be up there, and he wants the Pirlo to get the ball up to him. Mm-hmm. Maddison doesn't want to be that 6 that's dropping back. Maddison's a number 10, and Maddison's finding himself dropping deep to get the ball, and then he's putting the ball to where he'd want to be, and you'd want Maddison on it. So you haven't got that, like he's just said, your Rodri or your Pirlo sort of type of player, or Declan Rice. I think is fantastic at it as well. That's your missing piece for me. That is your missing piece, like your Moutinho sort of player, your Iniesta. I think if you got someone that's a proper baller at the side of Basuma could just be a box-to-box player then. Sometimes he'd get back and do the tackling. Sometimes he'd get up and score the goals. Maddison could just be his number 10.
You've kind of got the 10 in Maddison, and then you've got
They're not far away, are they?
Who both want to be 8. And you don't really have that kind of... to be honest, Spurs haven't really had a quality holding midfielder since... the names skip my mind. The Belgium.
Dembele.
Dembele.
And even he was more of an 8. If anything, I would say that maybe when Eric Dyer or Wanyama used to play there for us.
Wanyama was a great example. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
And that's the thing. Theoretically, with Andy's style, he wants the fullbacks inverting. So if we are to do that, then it needs to be a 6 who drops back into a back 3 as such to act as that shield, with then an 8 pivot, and then Maddison or Kulusevski further ahead. But at the moment, he's playing like a 6 and 2 8s with Maddison.
A player that you.
Yeah.
I was just going to say a player that you used to have that would be ideal. That's just come into my head. Modric. What a freaking player that you had there, Modric.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, hands down. But I think I've bored you guys enough with Spurs' problems.
We sorted you out. We helped you out there.
Oh,
told you how to get back on track. We helped you out.
Welcome to Spurs therapy.
Yeah.
Let's go to Lee's problems now.
God, so many.
The final game at Stamford Bridge had the makings of a quality game and ended in a very quiet draw. So
wasn't the best, was it? To be fair, it wasn't the most exciting game of the weekend.
The sort of kick up that I thought it would do. To be honest,
no.
I thought that both sides would be going for it. But yeah, let's come to you, mate, as it is one of your teams. Let's see what you want to say.
Well, first thing I'll bring up here is that the Ødegaard was a very welcome addition to the starting lineup. It was nice to see him back after so long, and for some of our moves, it was actually quite telling that he was back. Actually, despite the sort of soft introduction we gave to this segment, his vision certainly made a bit of a difference. Certainly did in terms of Arsenal's opening goal, where Partey and Ødegaard linked together, and that Ødegaard sort of dink pass over towards Martinelli, who shot towards that near post. Obviously, I don't think the keeper would be very happy with himself on the Arsenal goal there. But yeah, Ødegaard made a massive difference in our side. I do want to bring up Ben White. Obviously, as we found out today, he's gone in for a bit of a minor operation, bit of a procedure, because he's been playing through pain.
Is that to remove all the fake tan that he wears, mate? Is that to stop him from going to Brentford?
It's called tangoitis.
Ah,
that's what it is. But the from what I hear, I think they're expecting Calafiori to be back after the international break. So I can picture Timber going back to right back, and I see Calafiori going back into left back. But again, more injuries and more shifty around on a back line. But I will say, Chelsea did earn their point. Neto got the equaliser. I think they caught us really on a counter attack quite well. We weren't set up properly on this move at all. Where I think they just brought Enzo Fernandez on, didn't they? And he just played that simple little pass to Neto. That shot should not have gone past Raya. Unfortunately, and I don't criticise Raya very much because I like him as a goalkeeper. He, I think, has improved Arsenal so much. A big upgrade on to Aaron Ramsdale that we mentioned a little while ago. But I think we were set up completely wrong. Probably caught on that break. I think Saliba was on the wrong side, and I think Rice was next to him. So it was all a bit wrong. We definitely should have won the game right at the end, and I've been trying to find the right words to describe how I feel about Trossard over the last few days. But it's just, he started the move that the ball ended up with Saliba, who for some reason was up at the left wing sort of position, and that ball went through. Had Trossard just left it would have gone to Kai Havertz, who, I'll just say it for comedy effect, would have ballooned it over the bar anyway. But it's not how I feel genuinely. I think he would have scored it and it would have been perfect. But Trossard, mate, I don't think he's had a great time this season at all, and I don't know if it's confidence. It's the red card that he was shown. That was against City, I believe, and then he's tried to play the Ødegaard role. It's not gone well for him. It just doesn't look right for me, and he's not having a good time of it at all, which is a shame because he actually is a big game player. We said that. We saw it so many times last season. The other main issue that we've got, I don't think. Rice and Saka left the field early. I don't know the score about Rice's. I guess it was the speculation about the toe injury, and obviously they're both the players are out of the England squad. It looked to me like Saka had either pulled his hamstring or his calf muscle. So, yet more injuries just to go on top of it. Not going to use that as an excuse not to get them over the line because we had the players on the pitch to do so. More points dropped. I don't think the draw at Stamford Bridge is a bad result, but it's not the result that Arsenal wanted or needed.
No, exactly, mate. That's very fair. So, Henry, let me come over to you, mate. Obviously, being another London fan on this one, do you think this is a point gain for Chelsea, or do you think it's 2 points dropped for Arsenal?
I think that's a good question. I think I would start by saying that I think Enzo Maresca deserves a huge amount of credit. I think there was a lot of eyebrows raised when he came in, but also more focused on the sheer number of players that Chelsea have. I actually quite like the system that he's got with having two separate starting 11s for Europe and Cup competitions in the Premier League. I think it's unique. I don't think we've seen it before. And I think it's, in a way, it's kind of working quite well. They've almost got a B team that play in the Europa Conference League. And if you play well in that, you can get up to the Premier League squad. And I think through doing that, they've kind of started to build a pretty strong starting 11 in the Premier League. And I think they're doing very well. And I don't think many people were expecting Chelsea to be punching up in third position where they are now. I think they're having a good season. So in that sense, I'd say it's probably a reasonable point. I think you'd be happy going to Stamford Bridge and getting a point. I know I was when Palace did it. And I think, it will be easy. I think it is football fans kind of get caught up in, maybe looking at Chelsea and thinking about what Chelsea were like last season or in seasons gone by when they've not been very good. But this is a new Chelsea side. They're doing very well. They're having a good season. And therefore, I'd say I think it's a good point. I think I think for a team like Arsenal at the minute, and going away to any of the other big clubs, the historically big clubs in the Premier League, and getting a point is, it's definitely better than losing. So I think it's a good result for both sides.
No,
Good
that's
answer.
very fair, mate. Dan, I'm going to give you the same question to you as I gave to Henry, because I definitely think that, like you said, Maresca deserves a lot of credit. Arsenal have started to recover after Odegaard being out. Do you think that this is 2 points dropped for either side, or do you think there should have been a clear winner in this one?
Well, I said to you earlier on, there was a game that I was waiting for to talk about Pickford, and this was the game. Because I think if Chelsea had Pickford in goals, Chelsea won this game easy. This goalkeeper that Chelsea has got, he should be in a circus, not in the goals. I'm telling you, he's awful.
Who's
He's
that?
so bad.
Sanchez?
I can't.
Robert Sanchez.
I've watched Chelsea the last couple of games. Can't remember who they played, and the amount of goals he's let in that he shouldn't let in. And Chelsea have got all these big players, and you think, oh my God, why did you not sort yourself out with a goalkeeper? If Chelsea had a proper goalkeeper, he's cost Chelsea a lot of points, and that should never be going in near post. And I watched this game.
He must be one of the only players that. He must be one of the only players that left Brighton that has actually done quite shit on the team that they've gone to.
I know, yeah. It's just so bad, I think.
You're spot on though, Dan, about Pickford, because then you also look at Arrizabalaga for Bournemouth, and he conceded probably a worse goal, to be honest, near post, where he's not even got a touch on it. I think we do, look at keepers, and if they concede near post, it is poor. But I do agree with you. I think Pickford probably stops that. It was a really poor goal to concede.
It's near post. It's just so simple, and it shouldn't be going in. He's got his hands to a couple of games before, and it's cost Chelsea. And I'm thinking, he is so bad. But Chelsea are a good team. And Neto is one of my favourite players. I could only dream that we would have got him. I was wishing for him to come to Everton for so long, Neto, because Neto is a proper player. And it doesn't surprise me that Chelsea, I know probably obviously Spurs channel, it doesn't surprise me that Chelsea are good. And we're all sidetracked by they brought loads of players. So you think, it takes your attention away of how good these players are.
They are
brought, and they are gelling now. And there was a lot when I watched this game thinking, I want someone to show to me that they can compete with Liverpool this season and stop them winning the league. Obviously, Manchester City, I want them to do it, but I want someone else to step up and be just in case. And I watched Arsenal I watched Arsenal in the Europa League. There wasn't that good in that without Odegaard. He'd come on and made a bit of a difference. But I was thinking,
Champions League,
Arsenal ain't that good. And Champions League. I watched you, sorry.
Yeah.
And then I watched you. And then I watched this game to see what you was like with Odegaard, and you was a bit better, but I just thought Chelsea looked a lot more threatening on the attack, and they could have had you a couple of times. And it surprised me how good Chelsea was against you, because I really rate your centre-backs, and I thought if Chelsea's caused this much damage to two good centre-backs like yours, they have got something about them. And I think Chelsea, they're getting better and better.
I think you were spot on when you said that, we're sidetracked by the number of players, and I don't think it was a question of, are those players good? We all know that Pedro Neto is a good player. We all know that Christopher Nkunku is a good player. Like, these players are good players. I don't think there was any doubt in that. I think the question more so was, is there a manager that's going to be able to come in and manage this many personalities, this many players, keep this many people happy? And by all accounts, players are happy, And like I touched on earlier, I think the system of having a cup team and a league team is actually, it's a very bold decision, and that is a decision that could create a lot of animosity in the changing room with that many players. But it seems to be working, and you've got to give them credit for that. And they're starting to gel now. They've got this kind of solidified Premier League side, and they're all playing very well. And credit to them, because it's a ballsy move from Bowley, and I don't really rate Bowley's decision making in terms of transfers. I think he's just a bit of a transfer addict. But Maresca's come in, and with a lot of kind of doubt and a lot of questioning surrounding that appointment, because a lot of people said he wasn't even very good in the Championship with Leicester. But he's come in, and he's kind of got his style of play. He's really got this solid starting 11, but there is also the movement, and it's also making the players that are in the kind of second team, if you like, in the Conference League, want to play well and want to impress, and that's only going to do well for them in terms of getting far in cup competitions as well.
No, exactly.
But you look at we all spoke about we've all spoke about injuries. Last thing I'll say, we all spoke about injuries and stuff like that. when you look at a squad, new squads and can they handle the Premier League? And you look at Manchester City and you see De Bruyne injured and you think they're going to struggle with injuries. You look at Arsenal, you think they're going to struggle with injuries. But then you look at Chelsea, they've got so many players. They bring on Enzo, they bring on Dewsbury Hall. They've got a big squad where they can handle this league easy. It's just they're not complete. I know I praised them a lot, but they haven't completely clicked yet. They've not they're hot and cold. They ain't doing as good as they should be. They're not far. I do look they're on the way.
That's quite scary though, because when they do click, like they could definitely be pushing even higher up the table.
I think the only thing they're lacking is a top class striker. I think now someone like Osimhen or something like that. Don't get me wrong, I like Jackson. I think he's all right, and I think they have goals across the pitch. But someone in that proper top class striker
I think they'll go for Gyökeres. I think not. Obviously, it's an easy name to say now. He's doing so well at Sporting, but actually watching a lot of him and a lot of how he plays, I think his actual kind of skill set would suit Chelsea really well. They play with quite a dynamic attack, a lot of interchanging between the forwards, Palmer stepping in higher than Jackson making a lot of runs, coming in deep to get the ball and carrying it. I think Gyökeres would be is like an absolute model-made specimen for Chelsea to go and get, and I think he'd just be perfect for them. And they've got money, so...
Lee,
on Arsenal, though, on Arsenal, you mentioned... Just as the Arsenal fan, you mentioned that Trossard was a big problem for you when I was listening to you, and Havertz. Are you frustrated that Jesus has got pushed out so much? Because I always thought Jesus was pretty good. That you didn't go and buy a big centre forward because Havertz, he had a job up front, but sometimes you just need.
Sorry, you're a bit in and out on my ears then. But I got the gist of it. I do see Havertz. I mean, maybe I'm a bit weird. I am an Arsenal fan, and so I do see Havertz as a proper centre forward. I do see someone who's going to get 20 goals. I might be wrong, and I might get ridiculed for it again. Ha ha! Look at the Arsenal fan. But you asked me about Jesus. Jesus has struggled for a long time. Even since the start of last season, we did the pre-season. He got injured just before the start of the season, disrupted his whole campaign, and to be honest, probably one that is on the chopping block. I would suggest. Where the issue is that
I couldn't believe that you didn't sign Tony. By the way, I thought you was 100% going to sign Tony, which I thought.
Well, apparently there was a meeting between Arteta and Tony, and Arteta didn't like his personality, didn't like his arrogance.
There's a reason
Arteta thought he was an arsehole.
Which I think is probably a fair assessment.
Yeah.
I heard that. I heard the thing about Tony. My broadcast partner desperately wanted Tony. He reminded me too much of Aubameyang, and we didn't need another name like that around the club. The one thing I wanted to jump in on, it is getting a little bit late, gentlemen, and this young man's been up since 5 o'clock this morning, and I've still got my little girl in the other room, so it needs to go to bed soon. I want to make sure I need to make sure I praise Pedro Neto. You talk about injuries a little bit ago, right? And if you look at potential signings Arsenal could have made and people that Arsenal have signed, one player hasn't had any injuries. This is for you, Posh Bert, if you're watching. One player who's not had any injuries, who did come with, he's a good player, but would he last the season, whatever? I don't think Neto's had any injuries at all during the season. He's scored already 3 or 4 goals for Chelsea, and when he's played extremely well. I think he's one of the most exciting players when you watch him. Give the player a bit of credit. He's played very well generally. He got the goal that Chelsea deserved to get the point. So yeah, that's the point I wanted to make.
No, I completely appreciate that, guys. So obviously, I do appreciate he's late. I know we did say we was going to talk about David Coote. So if I just go around just quickly and get your quick thoughts on, obviously, his comments on Klopp and his suspension this week. We'll just keep it to a couple of minutes quickly each, and then we will call it a night, because I know we all have families, we all have either work or our own lives to deal with. So I do appreciate your time. So Dan, I'll come to you first on this, mate. Obviously, Coot did get suspended by the Premier League this week for comments and said he will not be refereeing indefinitely until the investigation is at least completed. And then he has been shown with taking a white substance tonight on a video as well that is on that is still on going to have a look, and it could be a drug, which we all know could be illegal or not, but it's not proven yet, but they are aware of it. So give me your thoughts quickly on this one, mate, and what impact do you think this has going forward?
Everyone's got different opinions on this, haven't they? Some people feel sorry for him, some people generally hate him and just glad that he's got nabbed. It's a different thing all over social media for him. Personally, I think that Klopp is an idiot. I don't like Klopp. I can't stand him. So, you know what I mean? I think some of the Liverpool fans do mad him because they're getting the violin out way too much. Saying he was on VAR when this decision, when they've pulled. Some of the Liverpool fans have pulled out literally every game that he was refereeing, everything that's gone against them. But I can tell you, decisions have gone against every one of us, and Liverpool have had a lot of decisions for them. You know, the goals have scored in extra time. They've had referees for them. The amount of times we've said, bloody hell, the referees are up their arse, and now they're acting like they're all done by referees and they've been cursed by referees and all referees hate them. This referee's been nabbed. Let's not beat around the bush, right? Referees do still like Premier League football teams. We know that. They still like Premier League football teams. Referees do go to grounds. And I hate a lot of referees because we get decisions against us all the time. But at the end of the day, referees go to the ground. They get your W. You know what I mean? They get this, they get that. I'm pretty sure referees won't like some football clubs. He's been nabbed. Yeah. It was meant to be a private. He's not going to get. He's probably going to have to go abroad and referee now. It was meant to be a private conversation. The lad looks like he was going to stitch him up. Doesn't look like a lad to trust, does it? And no. How many years down the line? There's no coming back from it, though, because you know what? Yeah. The Liverpool fans, with how much of a fuss they've kicked up, they won't let that drop. So I don't think he'll ever be able to referee in football again. He knew straight away on that video he'd made a mistake, because straight away he sensed that the guy was going to share that. He knew the wrong person was recording him, because you could see him straight away be like, don't share this. Don't do this. Don't share. He's been. I always called him Smiley, this referee, because when he referees, he always smiles. He looked like the softest shit referee ever. He always smiles at everyone. And he doesn't look like that aggressive person that just hates on people. I think he's just been, you can tell he's had a bit, and he says stuff that he'd never say before. Yeah, and he says stuff, he's out of character, because you can tell he's on something. And he said something he's never said before, and he won't referee again. But it is what it is. You know, and we've all said fucking stuff when we've had beer or whatever. Do you know what I mean? But you wouldn't like to think someone snitches us when we say something. You know what I mean? Goes and tells your private business. I don't know. It's just my opinion. So people could be different to me. They might literally say he's got what he deserves. He's an idiot. We hate him. I'd be jumping on it. I don't know, but that's what I think.
No, I completely understand where you're coming from. Right. So, Lee, I'll come and get your view on it, and then we'll come to you, Henry, and then we will call it a night, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. So, the guy's got caught doing something he shouldn't have done, and what the heck is he thinking anyway? Recording something like that on a video. You know what social media is like. What we do here on YouTube, everything gets recorded. Anything that we do say may be given in evidence. Toots on the toot, and we know it is. And unfortunately, it's not good. And I don't feel a lot of sympathy for him, because he's been done, and he's been, what his views might be, it's kind of irrelevant, because he said what he said. He's not got a future in the game, certainly not in this country. Unfortunate, but he's got to be dealt with. I'll say this clearly: that if there is some sort of issue here, and if what the newspapers is going with this story about him taking whatever he's taking. Let's hope he gets it out of his system or whatever, and he gets some help that he clearly needs, because it's not good to get involved in that sort of stuff. And that's kind of all I want to say on it, really.
No, exactly, mate. And Henry, I'll come to you to finish off, mate, just to get your view on the two incidents.
Yeah, I mean, I'll keep it pretty brief because for me, it's silly. It's really silly on his part. He shouldn't have said it when he saw the camera. He should. That's just the and I did see a post that did make me laugh which it probably true is that David Coote may well have not even known this video existed. He might have just completely forgotten it, waking up the next morning, and now it's all come out. And I think it just goes to show that you have to be very, very careful what you say and what you do. And I think it could be, it's unfortunate. My generation would say that's a bit peak, but it could be used as a lesson for a lot of people that what you say when it's recorded can come back to bite you in the arse. And I don't think there's anything wrong with what he thinks about Jurgen Klopp. I think a lot of people would agree with what he said about Jurgen Klopp. But the bottom line is, you can have your opinions on people. You'll work, I work. You probably have colleagues that you think similar things about. It's just about having the self-control to not voice it. And he hasn't had that control. He's made a mistake. And unfortunately, in some industries and in some businesses and in some walks of life, when you make mistakes like that unfortunately there's no second chance. And I think if we can take anything from David Coote, it's let it be a lesson to us all that what you say will be brought up in the future. There is always a tweet, as people love to say on Twitter. There is always a tweet. If you say something, someone will find something that you've said in the past, and you've just got to be very, very careful. So for me, there's no question he can't ever referee again, and he's just a very, very silly boy.
No, exactly, boys, exactly. And let's end it on that very merry note then. So obviously it has been an amazing show. I appreciate that you have given up nearly 2.5 hours of your night and your lives, gentlemen. I hope I haven't bored you too much. So obviously, Dan, I will come over to you first, mate. And thank you so much for being on with me again. And it has been a very enjoyable night for you. So where can everyone find you?
Toffee Bluecast, we'll go live for Everton before and after games. So I'm always do try and mix it about and get opposition fans on as well. So come on our channel, come over. We're over 3,000 subscribers at the minute. We did get Begovic on the other day, and he's currently Everton goalkeeper. So that was a good coup for us, Begovic on the show. Yeah, I enjoyed that. So I'm pushing the show, and we're on our way up. We're on our way up. We do want to keep giving good content out, so we're trying our best to get the best stuff we can on the show.
Wonderful stuff, mate. And Lee, thank you very much for coming on tonight, mate. It has been a pleasure. It has been good to have a laugh with you as well and seeing you giggling while I am in the background as well.
Absolutely, mate. It's been great.
So where can everyone find you, mate, and your channel?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on YouTube, Gooner Gathering. You can find me on and the aforesaid Twitter, but I ain't doing any white powder on there, unfortunately. But yeah, but it's funny because we're a family friendly channel normally. So that if you come over, give us a subscribe. I've subscribed to Harry's channel. I know a lot of you are going to be Spurs fans on here. Help me out a little bit because I help Harry out. Yeah. Cheers. It's been a pleasure being with you gentlemen tonight as well. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, mate. And Henry, thanks very much for joining us as well, all the way from Brighton, even though you are a Palace fan, so I think you got lost on the way. But where can everyone find you, mate? And find your content?
Yeah, my name, as you see on Twitter, just with Jern on the end. I'm on TikTok as well. Still haven't actually started doing that properly. Gonna try and get on that. But yeah, Twitter's where I'm fine most of the time, normally complaining about Palace and just general football chit chat. So yeah, follow me on there, pushing almost 1,000 followers. So yeah, it's getting close. But yeah, lads, been a pleasure. Dan, nice to meet you. Lee, you too. And yeah, also Kallum, great host. So good job. Been a good chat.
Wonderful stuff, gents. Thank you very much for being on with me tonight. And if anyone wants to go and listen to my boring arse on more than one show a week, you can find me at Park Lane Podcast on a Sunday night with all the guys. You can see me on Harry's channel with him and Louis as co-host, and obviously you can put up with me next Wednesday as well if you want to. And we do have John on from the Newcastle page and a couple of other great guests, so we will see everyone then. But thank you very much. Have a good evening, guys, and good night.